What is happening out there, Roto Scouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Monday show, gang. Hope your week's off to a good start. Uneventful beginning to the week here on a Monday. Getting some projections up. Spent a lot of time in the model today, just dialing things in a little bit. Watching some U.S. Open tennis in the corner over here. If you get a chance tonight, Venus Williams playing. I was texting my mom about it before just to let her know, but 45-year-old, 31st year on the professional tour. Were rumors that she was retired. One of the all-time greats. If you're just into all-time greats and watching them do their thing, she might not get another match. She's playing the 11 seed. She's unseeded. She finished last year ranked like 300-something. But just out there for the love of the game, and I'm going to be watching. I think it's worth tuning in for tonight. It's on ESPN, I think. So give that a watch. But U.S. Open's kicking off. I'll be going to it next Tuesday for the afternoon session. Quarterfinals. Always a fun time. But hopefully you guys are doing well out there. We got Tall to Gods in the house. Andy, Max Plays Z. Max says, good day. Oh, that's Matt Pat. What's going on, Matt? Quitty Soul, you're the GOAT. Nah, right back at you, buddy. Best audience in the industry, as I keep saying. I appreciate you. Analysis, absolutely. Happy to do it. Check out the website. It's rotoscouts.com. Access is under $1 a day. Monthly, weekly, monthly, quarterly plans. Access to every sport. Right now, still just baseball, but we got football moments away. Had a couple preseason slates projected up during the run up here, just trying to get things locked in the football model, get everything up to date, find out who's on what team these days, who some of the depth chart, the depth options are, some of the guys who are going to be bagging groceries next week. Always fun trying to cover the preseason. Really good looking baseball slate today, though. No real weather concerns. We've got Tampa at Cleveland. Does have a little bit of rain, maybe a delay with some wind in the area, but seems like it's going to play. Every other game on the board is green. We've got wind blowing out in New York for both New York games and wind blowing out in the White Sox, the KC White Sox game, but it's apparently cold there tonight in the 60s. So an interesting slate there. Really, really deep pitching slate to go through. That is a ton of usability. A lot of very high-priced pitchers. But we're at the top of a lot of rotations. To start this week, we've got a very usable mid-board here. Does trail off kind of down toward the bottom, but super usable. I like everything up here is kind of straightforward. Obvious. I think Max is at a great price. But I just like how much middle there is on this. All of Cameron, Schlittler, Senga, Soriano. Arguably Emmett Sheehan at a very good price. Erod at a pretty cheap price in a very tough spot for a roller coaster. But that's a really usable middle with some very cheap pricing. The 57 on Soriano is ridiculous. That is way too cheap. We'll get into it. We've got Bryce Miller hiding down here. He's at a limited projection. I just gave him 5 innings. That's what he threw in the return. Went 5 against the Phillies, struck out just 4, walked 2 home runs, 4 earned runs. Another one, we'll get into it. Low strikeout opponent, checking that down a little bit. Fantastic pitcher, but just getting back. So I don't think we've got usability there. Let's get into the run board as we get started, though. Hit the like button, subscribe. People are piling into the chat. Nobody said anything in the last couple minutes. I'll say hi to you as you come on in the room and say hello, though. Nats at the Yanks. It is a warm day here in the New York area. It hasn't been the last week or so. It's been more, upper 70s, low 80s. Today it's more mid to high 80s. Little bit warm, solid hitting environment. Yanks going up against Brad Lord. The one thing Brad Lord has been capable of doing over time is limiting home run upside. It's having a little impact on the Yankees in the home run model, but they're still pulling monster totals. They're the top projected stack on the board. Several of the top hitters on the board. 5, 4, 6 implied for the Yankees. It's Cam Schlittler on the mound for the Yanks. He's looking pretty solid going up against the Nats. He had a little bit of issue with Some walks in the minors and a little bit of issue with some home runs over his first few starts. Last 2 times out, hasn't allowed a home run. Kept walks to just 2 in each start. Went 5 against the Twins, 6 2/3 against the Rays. We're looking for a little depth, but there's a lot of quality there if you keep the ball in the yard. A little bit of power showing on the Nationals side around James Wood mostly, but definitely some playable bats there. It is Yankee Stadium, but you can see 366 implied total for the Nationals. Not that great a spot for them. Cam Schlittler from a mid-board price, very much in play. Joe Ryan against Max Scherzer in this next one, keeping those teams to a 7.5 total. Little bit of offense was showing for the Twins against Max. They're one of the lower totaled, higher ranked teams on the board at just a 3.51 implied total, but a little quality showing there. Max has been out pitching his xFIP a little bit this season. On the other side, it's a 408 implied total that's entirely believable against Joe Ryan. We know Ryan can slip around power from time to time. Last time out, 5 runs, only 2 of them earned, though. Did give up a home run, 6 strikeouts, 6 hits over just 4 innings to the Athletics. That's the downside day for Ryan. The upside is pretty tremendous. I think we're leaning more pitching on both of those, but capable offenses on both sides. Phillies and the Mets. Both of these dynamite teams under 4 implied runs as well. Kodai Senga going for the Mets, pushing a little bit higher of a total 3.98 to the Phillies. Some obvious power showing around Kyle Schwarber, the upside players there, but a lower end day for the Phils. And then the Mets dramatically impacted by Christopher Sanchez, who's fantastic. Goes deep in the ball game, 6 1/3 in the last one, 2 6-inning starts, 8 innings, 6 2/3, up to a complete game, 12 strikeout game against Boston back on July 22nd. Just tremendous this season. He's very, very good. Realistically keeping the Mets in check at just a 3.60 implied total. Diamondbacks and the Brewers. Erod, as mentioned, very cheap. A total roller coaster. Complete wild card on this slate. Could go out, put up 40 FanDuel points, 45 FanDuel points, and be a big part of winning the day. And could get completely destroyed, give up 5 runs, be out of the game after 4 2/3. He typically will give you more depth even when he's given up some runs, though. For example, 6 2/3 in his last one against Cleveland. Struck out just 4, walked 3, gave up a home run, 4 earned on 5 hits, but stayed in for 6 2/3, faced 28 hitters. Start before that at Coors Field was tremendous. We picked him off that day. 1 earned run over 7 innings, struck out 6, walked 1. The earned run came on a solo homer. Did give up 6 hits. So depending on where you're playing, there's a little bit, of a different impact there, but he's capable. Wouldn't stun me if he had a decent start. Wouldn't shock me at all if that high-scoring Brewer squad came through in a big, big way. 4.59 implied total speaks to that. Going the other way, it's Brandon Woodruff, who is absolutely tremendous. Just 4 1/3 the last time out. Gave up 3 earned runs. Struck out 6, walked 3. More upside than that. That was a game against the Cubs last week. Game before that, just 4 innings against Pittsburgh. Struck out 4, walked 2, gave up 4 hits. I forget why they came out of that one early. But has been on a very strong start to the season overall. So I think even if we're looking at 5 and change, a little bit lighter of an inning ceiling maybe. And he did get out. He went 7 innings against the Mets on August 8th, 6 innings in 3 straight starts prior to that, 6 innings in his first start back in the beginning of July. So plenty of reason to at least expect Woodruff to keep the Diamondbacks lineup in check, if nothing else. But I think he's going to be very usable here. Noah Cameron, shorter start last time out for him as well, but struck out 5, walked 8 over his 4 2/3, just 2 earned runs on 3 hits against Texas. Tremendous option going up against the White Sox. They are better against left-handed pitching typically. There is a very dangerous bat in Lubob in that lineup against the lefty, but it's a lower-end team overall. 4.08 implied total for them. 4.52 for the Royals going up against Shane Smith. They're very realistically one of the better projected teams on the board. Joan Oviedo going for Pittsburgh against St. Louis puts the Cards on the board a little bit. 4.25 implied total. They're still just kind of a middling team, but it would definitely not surprise if they got to Oviedo here. And then Michael McGreevy, kind of in the mix for some cheap pitching darts. 3.84 implied total for the opposing Pirates, one of the more attackable teams in baseball. And McGreevy comes in on a stretch of 4 straight outings where he's gone 6. 3 of the 4 were quality starts. 3 earned runs in each of the last 2, came with 5 strikeouts, 2 strikeouts against Miami and Colorado. Kept the Cubs off the board. 6 hits, no runs, struck out just 3 and walked 1 over 6 innings on the 8th. And then gave up 4 earned runs over 6 to the Padres. Struck out 4 solo home runs, 7 hits. Not a great start, not a total meltdown. I think there's some usability in McGreevy. long as we can get that 6 innings against the Pirates here, seems like some upside. As mentioned, Soriano's price is stupid on DraftKings. I do not really understand why he's quite so cheap. 5 2/3, gave up 5 earned runs in his last game, gave up 3 home runs. That was at the Athletics in that launching pad of a ballpark. Struck out 5, walked 1 in that game. Usually doesn't get nailed for power that much. Had a 2 home run game a few starts prior to that, and has given up a few home runs along the way this year, but is not bad in that category. Can give you a lot of depth. 6 innings to start before that against the Dodgers. He 2-hit them, kept them off the board, struck out 6 and walked 2. That was just on the 11th. A meltdown start against the Rays, 4 innings, 7 earned runs, struck out just 4 and walked 1. But the start before that one against the Rangers on the 30th, 7 innings, 1 run ball, 5 hits, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks. That pitcher crossed 55 or whatever it was against the super gettable Rangers. That 7 inning start that I just mentioned was against these same Rangers. Not that that's predictive in any way, but it at least shows that he is capable of going out there and having a very good start against the same collection of hitters. 4.28 implied total, but Soriano is really cheap. I do think you can play Texas against him. And then DeGrom's on the mound for the Rangers, going up against the super gettable Angels team with plenty of strikeout in it. 3.31 implied total. DeGrom, realistically, one of the top options on the board. He's been fantastic in his return. JP Sears going for the Padres against the hard-hitting Mariners team. I like the Mariners upside here. 4.44 implied total. Every now and again, Sears can break off a good one. Last time out, 6 innings against San Francisco. Just 1 earned run that came on a solo homer. Only struck out 2 in that game. Walked 1. He's been lighter strikeout this year. I think there's a lot of danger for JP Sears coming from the Mariners side. I hope you catch him a little bit lower on. As mentioned, Miller, just 1 start since June 6th. Went out on the injured list and missed quite a bit of time. 5 innings in the return, but gave up 4 earned runs at Philly. Struck out 4, walked 2, gave up 2 home runs. He'd been having a low-end season to begin with, was giving up a lot of runs, a lot of power, a lot of games shaped just like that one in the return. I'm not giving him more than 5 innings here, and it's a low strikeout, fairly high-quality Padres team, pulling a 4.15 implied total against. Probably not leaning into Millard from near the bottom of the board here. But the Padres, if Miller's on form at all, would be a little bit checked down for their quality. It's a mid-board type team. Tarek Skubal going into the bandbox in Sacramento. Monster upside, top projected pitcher on the board. Little bit of a danger spot there with all those hard-hitting Athletics bats in that ballpark. 3.88 implied total for the Athletics, but in a neutral park, that would probably be a half run lower. 5.23 implied total for the Tigers speaks to the upside of the ballpark. They're going up against a gettable JT Ginn. Last time out, we were on Ginn a little bit as a potentially cheap option against the Twins. He went 4 2/3. He gave up 7 hits, but only 2 runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. Mid-board type start for the price he was at. I do not think we're getting anything like that today. The Tigers' top or second-ranked team on the entire slate. The Reds against the Dodgers to close things out. Hunter Green, tremendous strikeout pitcher, 12 Ks over 6 1/3 against the Angels. Now he gets the Dodgers. Lower strikeout overall Dodgers, but it is a diminished stat for them this year. They've been striking out a little bit more up and down that lineup. So I like the upside for Green, but it's also a high danger spot. The Dodgers are pulling a 4.32 implied total against. And then Emmett Sheehan on the mound for Los Angeles, looking like a reasonable option from the middle of the board as a cheaper pitcher, going up against a gettable Reds team that does have a little bit of upside against for some hit tool, a little tiny bit of power in the heart of the lineup. Ellie, I believe, is over the magic number. Both-sided situation there to end the night. Kenny Woodhouse, what's going on, bud? Good to see you. So getting into the pitching board again, just a little bit here. Monster top end. Any one of these options I think is perfectly fine. There's a variety of pricing there. Ace caliber upside from from all those guys, really. Slate winning potential from any one of those guys. You can nitpick some of the prices, like if we get a shorter outing from Woodruff here against the high-quality Diamondbacks team, it's mismatched to the price. I don't expect it. I think 6 is a reasonable expectation. That's exactly what he's got here. Joe Ryan against a low strikeout, high-quality Toronto team. If they find a few base hits, some sequencing, some lower strikeout, and then somebody comes through with that home run that he tends to give up, you're broken a little bit at 10-1, less so at 9-5, but that's still a very high price SP1. Love the upside for Sanchez, but that's a tremendously good Mets lineup as well, with some low strikeout options, some very hard hitting options, extreme on base guys. In some ways, I'm just talking about one player, but it is a heavy upside Mets lineup, at least at the top end. DeGrom, love the upside there. Between him and Skubal, there's a little bit of daylight. Skubal is projected higher, and I think he's got the higher ceiling overall. But the danger coming from that ballpark, the opposing offense, the price, the popularity between him and DeGrom, if you split that, I don't know, head to head, you might have to lean DeGrom a little bit. Would really boil down to the popularity? Let's see where we're at there. That's an important question here. Because we're going to pick off a couple of the top end pitchers a little bit lower owned no matter what. Let me get both of these open. Wow, it's so close. It's a handful. Maybe you get out to 5 points of separation with Skubal owned a little bit more, but it's very, very close. And then everybody else, this is FanDuel. Everybody else is in single digits. So literally, you get an ownership discount on everybody not named Skubal or DeGrom, which is a pretty strong list of pitchers. That's FanDuel. DraftKings, I expect, is going to be a little bit deeper among some of the other guys. But yeah, it's pretty dramatic. DeGrom is outpacing Skubal ownership-wise on this DraftKings board. Again, this is just per one site's ownership projections. Everybody else on the slate sub 20%, which I think is significant. So essentially, if you make any different decision at SP1 on DraftKings, anybody that's not DeGrom and Skubal, and they're both at entirely playable numbers and deserve gigantic chunks of ownership, don't get me wrong. But if your SP1 is anybody else, you can basically do whatever you want as far as ownership. Like, you no longer have to sweat ownership that much. And there are so many choices for that. And then if your SP2 is anybody other than Scherzer and Schlittler, who are both strong options for that as well, you can even more do anything that you want. Soriano at 5,700 on DraftKings is projected for sub 10% ownership. That gives you the ability from both an ownership and a price perspective to do whatever you want. That's pretty nuts. Again, Soriano, he's down here. Those are very realistic numbers. There's a little bit of ceiling on that. But, like, all you have to do is go Chris Sanchez against the Mets, Joe Ryan, Brandon Woodward, any one of these guys. You do that, and you're very different. And you're spending $77 per pitcher on the average, 15.4 total at pitcher for both guys. I don't think it's completely crazy to consider using Schlittler or Max as the one and cheapen it up even further. You do that, 6,700 each, 13.4 total for your two pitchers on DraftKings. There's a lane where those are two tremendous performances. They're very inexpensive. Schlittler will be popular, but nowhere near as popular as the Skubal DeGrom. He's SP2 popular. Scherzer, same deal at 83. Maybe not the way you want to handle it across all 150 of 150 lineups. But for one lineup, I think that's worth considering. For at least a pocket full of lineups in 150, I definitely think that's worth doing. It's also probably a slate, given how owned these two guys are, where it would pay if you're just building lineups via an optimizer and running a bunch of, or a large pool to put into a sim, a large pool to put into a sorting process. I think it would pay to run some lineup builds with both these guys just boxed out. and just let it build with the mix of all those guys. Because again, combining any two of the other guys on this slate gets you very, very different, very, very fast. A lot of playability through the middle. And then there's the riskier spots. I think Sheehan's got upside against the Reds. He's very cheap. I think Erod against that very good Milwaukee team can be very problematic, but 77.62 gets you very cheap. I think I probably would call you crazy if you told me you were going Soriano and Erod. But if you're building a ton of lineups and you wanted to do that a couple times, that's the cheapest approach to the entire slate. I wouldn't throw Jin into that mix against that Detroit team. Just too much upside in that ballpark. McGreevy, though, at 63, very much on that list of playable options against that Pirates team. He's not going to project well. He's not a high-end pitcher, but that's a very low-end opponent. He can give you 6. And then we hit Lord, problematic. Sears, I'm way more on the Mariner side of that one. Smith, same thing with KC. Shorten Miller and Oviedo. So it does cut probably at McGreevy. But from there up is very, very deep, very, very playable. Even the crazy combinations of any, these few guys, not including JT Jin there. Outside of Jin, any combination of anybody from like McGreevy up, I wouldn't think is off the board. There's a lot of reasons to consider some alternate combinations there. Bunch of lineups just dropped. The confirmed ones that were up when we started the show are up on the website now. That website is rotoscouts.com. Give that a look. Everything's under $1 a day. Access to baseball, football, which starts momentarily. Basketball and hockey right around the corner after that. You get access to everything, no per sport fees. Pricing, trying to get it in there so it's help you build your bankroll, keep money in your pocket. $5 weekly plans through the end of August with promo code 5ME. If you want to just check things out, we'll save a couple bucks on that weekly. Nothing nuts. We'll run another one for the start of football season. Jake Swale saying run those likes up. Yeah, like the show. Subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Free Discord. You don't need to be a subscriber at the website to join the Discord. That's linked in the description. Site links are down there as well, just to get directly over to the projections or anything like that you might need. Check out the stacks board while I'm talking about it. But jump behind the paywall. Weekly, monthly, quarterly plans available under $1 a day. Accesses everything that hits that website. Nats Yanks. Doesn't look like the Nats have posted their lineup yet. Schlittler, again, very much on the board. I like the pitcher. He's come with Junior Caminero grand slam, 37th home run. Underdog just tweeted that. Yeah, and how about Cal Raleigh? Set the record most home runs, number 49 last night. Most home runs by a catcher. As I've been saying since like June, every day he takes the field, he's just setting the bar for the best catcher season ever. And now it's actually true. So Schlittler at 77 at 84, striking out 24.8%. He's still walking 10.5% overall, but he has wrangled it a little bit in the last couple starts. Nothing we're going to get overexcited about. It was 2 walks, 2 walks in each of the last 2. And actually only 1 walk in the start prior to that one and 2 walks in the start before that one. Only went 5 innings in 3 of those 4 starts. The most recent one, he got out to 6 2/3. He one-hit the Rays over that stretch. 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. Kid's a high-end strikeout pitcher. He's got an excellent fastball. If we can bring the walks down realistically, and if we can bring the premium contact down somewhat, it's got major upside. You can see that in the rating by Stuff Plus, one of the higher marks on the board. Hasn't given up a home run in the last 2. Prior to that, home run, 2 home runs, 1. A start with none against Toronto, and then a 2 home run game going back against the Mariners in his first one. So there is a lot of danger in the power that's showing on the national side. Very much believe in James Wood at that 14. He's got 26 on the season, a 221 ISO, 363 xWOB under the surface. CJ, also from the left side, is a high danger spot with lefty bats as well in Yankee Stadium. Plays into the short porch in right. And we talk about the short porch all the time, and it is a short porch for sure. But one of the biggest differences between this Yankee Stadium, I was thinking about it when I was at the ballpark the other day, and I've talked about this before, but the differences between this one and the old one where the dimensions are the same, they lowered the height of the wall. This wall is significantly shorter than the height of the wall in the old Yankee Stadium. So the home run to right plays differently in this Yankee Stadium. It's a bigger factor in this version of Yankee Stadium than it was in the old one. And it was always a big factor for lefty bats in the old one. But it plays up left-handed power for sure, and either of these guys are capable of hitting one out of any ballpark. We'll get Josh Bell as well from the left side. He is very, very cheap. Monster barrels and hard hits. You put the ball in the air toward right field on a day like today with a lefty bat, and you've got a good shot at a home run. The ball just carries. Stanton hit one out the other day that just was looking like a lazy fly ball, and I was watching it, oh, that's carrying, and it got over the wall by that much the other day. And you get a lot of those with that short porch and right. So any of these lefties at the top of the lineup definitely can exploit the downside that Cam Schlittler might show. Oh, Luis Garcia is back in the projected. Didn't notice that. I got to fix that. I think I got it on FanDuel just by habit, but I didn't on DK. There he is. There we go. $4,100 second baseman, not the pitcher. Riley Adams on the heart of the lineup. Some barrels, some hard hits out of him as well for the full season. He's come away with 8 home runs, a 165 ISO, just a 77 WRC plus, a limited bat, somebody that we typically look to get maybe more when they're against a lefty. If he's in there, you can play him. You can chase the contact a little bit. He is a very affordable catcher where you have to play the position. And again, I do believe that there's upside in going to some Nationals bats, especially if you get overweight to Cam Schlittler as a little bit of a hedge in some other lineups. Luis Garcia, if he's back in the lineup, 41-28, an effective lefty bat, 264, 303, 416 season, just a 97 WRC plus, was better overall last year, but okay for counting stats across all 4 categories in the middle there. Dylan Cruz back with the team, 35-29, 7 home runs, 12 stolen bases, a pretty limited slash line of 76 WRC plus. A lot of barrels, though, from the young player. He's right-handed, but righties can succeed in Yankee Stadium as well. You go the other way, you can put one of those right field seats as well. It's not exclusive to the lefties here, but a lower end option at a cheap price, 7.37 in the home run model though. Dalen Lyle, Brady House, and Robert Hassel III mix and match options all from the bottom of the lineup. 3 home runs, 2 home runs, 2 home runs, a handful of stolen bases, no ISO to speak of, limited WRC plus numbers for all 3 guys. They're cheap. You can mix and match your way through them, but they're non-priority bats down among people who are stacking Nationals. Going the other way, the one limiting factor here is Brad Lord's ability to keep the ball down a little bit. At every stop coming up through the minor leagues, he had a sub-1 and significantly sub-1 home run per 9. This year, he's kept home runs to just 2.02% in 12 starts, as well as some relief work. 3.46 ERA, a 3.74 xFIP, sub-20% strikeout. There's a ton of contact available here for the Yankees. There's a ton of upside at their 5.46 implied total. No Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup. That has an impact, but it is a deep up and down lineup. But this, the 5.2% barrels, the 8.2 degree average launch, the limited exit velo, 87.9 miles an hour of exit velocity is a limiting factor here. Has an impact on the Yankees. Ooh, Judgy even slipped below. I think he was in the 2 spot in the projected lineup. Moving to the 3 spot knocked him down to 9.92. He was the only guy previously above 10. But when we have a day where Aaron Judge is being checked down sub 10 in the home run model, there's a little bit of significance to that as far as the other guy's ability to limit home runs. But the Yankees can sequence. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in this lineup drawing double-digit walk rates. Another one, Jason Dominguez, at 9.8%. So everybody in this lineup can exploit the walks. 7.8% walk rate on the other side. Not exactly problematic, but when you have guys that are aggressively looking to work the walk, definitely upside there. And if anybody's going to hit a home run against this guy, and he's not invulnerable to them, he gave 1 up in his last start. Did not give 1 up to the Phillies. Gave 1 up to the Mets, not the Phillies. 1 each to the Giants and the Brewers over his last 4 starts. He has gotten a little bit more stretched out. He went from a relief role and a bulk relief role to traditional starts. 4 innings in his first start on the 22nd, got out to 5 1/3, 4 and change, and then in the last 3, 6 innings twice, and got into the 6th in that game against the Mets, but gave up 4 earned runs. He's been effective, though, in 3 of those 4 recent starts. Just 2 earned runs over 6 in that game against the Phillies. Only struck out 3, walked 1. Struck out 5, walked 2, gave up a homer, but only the 1 earned run, 4 hits to the Giants. At 6,000, you're playing with fire, throwing him against that 5.5 run total. But he is there. I'll give him that much. If he gets through the Yankees, limits the home runs, he's not going to come away with many strikeouts, but the Yankees can push a few additional strikeouts in your direction as well. Not that he really is a pitcher that goes and finds them. Top of the Yankees slate, how about Trent Grisham this year? 25 home runs, 247, 351, 469. Turned me into a believer. I was, for the first 2.5, maybe even 3 months of the season, saying, this isn't real. It's going to come crashing down. And he's just held up his end. 13.3% walks, still making great contact overall, creating runs 31% better than average at 222 ISO. Ben Rice has been tremendous throughout the season. 20 home run year for him, 240 ISO. Sub 20% walk against the 10.5% strike, sub 20% strikeout against the 10.5% walk from the young hitter, 16.7% barrel and 55% hard hit. Monster upside. Kid is really good at 4,400, 3,300 against this pitcher. Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. 40 home runs, draws walks like crazy, 439 on base percentage. We're looking for power. If we're looking for the home run, if we're looking for sequencing ability, he can have a game where he goes out there and just walks 3 times and still contributes in a big way. It's a high price for that, but the upside is ridiculous. Cody Bellinger, 53.34. Very reasonable pricing for a guy with 24 homers, 11 steals. Same thing for Jazz at 54.37. 24 homers, 22 steals for him. 122 and 127 WRC plus marks. Paul Goldschmidt has just gotten really cheap. 3,500, 2,600. The power's been definitely cut down significantly this year. Just 10 home runs, a 144 ISO. But he's still got a 111 WRC plus. He's still creating runs 11% better than the average player. 8.6% barrels, just 18.7% strikeout rate, slashing 283, 336, 427. Like, yeah, he's not MVP Paul Goldschmidt anymore, but those are really cheap prices to just grab a first baseman in the heart of the Yankees lineup today against a pitcher on a day where they've got a 5.5 and just ride with a guy who gets on base, creates runs, hits the ball squarely. There's nothing wrong with Paul Goldschmidt. That is a tremendous bargain. Jason Dominguez at 33.29. Another guy getting on base at a 330 clip. Yeah, just a 101 WRC plus, but that is technically a point above average. He hits the ball very hard, 49.6% hard hit rate. He's just lost a little bit of barrel from what expectations were. But given the walk-up side, the lower ownership, the ability to stick him into the outfield at a cheap price, Jason Dominguez is really interesting from down lineup. And then we get Ryan McMahon and Jose Caballero, 2 proven professional MLB caliber players. McMahon is a 3 true outcomes hitter. He's been very good since joining the Yankees. 17 home runs on the board. The power hasn't really been there, but still an 11.8% barrel, 49.6% hard hit. Cheap lefty third base bat that you can plug in here in Yankee Stadium. Maybe the home run doesn't come through again, but he's going to hit the ball hard a few times. He's got the ability to draw walks. Really interesting option from down lineup. And then Jose Caballero seems to have usurped, finally, Anthony Volpe in the starting lineup. I think we're just leaning Caballero most starts here. 40 stolen bases. He's been really good since joining the Yankees. He's a hit tool-oriented player. He's a hit tool, a little bit of walk rated for him as well, 12.3 on the season. Just a 91 WRC plus overall for the season, but gets on, steals bases, makes things happen. An interesting wraparound option given that 333 on base to just bring back in front of Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, and Aaron Judge. So 9-man up and down lineup for the Yanks, and you get a little bit of a discount compared to where some of these guys have been or where the Yankees bats have been, just with all those aggressively cheap options for good players down the bottom of the Yankees lineup. So tremendous opportunity to stack Yanks today. Cue the 9-inning shutout from Brad Lord. Yankees bats, Cam Schlittler. Nationals bats, Brad Lord. I think the Nats are slightly more on the board than that implied total suggests, if Schlittler loses a little bit around the walk, and obviously if he loses a little bit around the home run. The Twins were a little problematic today up against Max. Had to fiddle with it a little bit to get him in a more appropriate spot while still showing some upside on the board. 3.51 implied total. Max at a 3.60 ERA, but he's been outperforming his xFIP, like I said in the run-up, 4.48 xFIP. 23.3% strikeouts, 6.3% walks, still missing bats pretty good, 10.5% swinging strike rate. Giving up a 4.58% home run, 22.4 degrees of launch on average, but only 33.5% hard hits, 87.7 miles an hour of exit velo on that 10.8% barrel. So to me, that just looks like a fly ball trajectory pitcher who's made a few mistakes that have gotten tattooed. We don't make those mistakes, probably don't cash in on some of those home run marks, which are fueling some of the upside in the projections. So a little back and forth there. But obviously, if Max does make that mistake, leaves one hanging against a Cody Clemens, a Byron Buxton, a Matt Wallner, it could get problematic in a hurry. So there is a little bit of downside for Max. Going the other way, Joe Ryan always has a little bit of issue with home runs. 11% barrel, 41.4% hard hit, 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo. We are over the threshold on each one of those categories. And he's a fly ball trajectory pitcher at 18.9 degrees on the average launch. But just a 3.02% home run this year. He's wrangled it a little bit. Other than the power that he allows from time to time, he's tremendous. So it is one of those ace caliber pitchers. Think Garrett Cole. He was always this way, where you do get a little home run downside, but it usually can see Joker likes Joe Ryan, but it usually comes in the form of solo shots, maybe a 2-run shot because he limits guys on base. A sub-1 whip, tremendous. 5% walks against 28.2% strikeouts. Joe Ryan at 9,500, a little bit discounted against on the DraftKings slate. 10-1 on FanDuel, I'd say fully priced. The major issue is going up against a team that just checks strikeout down so much. Everybody except for Dalton Varsho, sub 20% in this lineup. He's kind of standing out there at nearly 30% when everybody else is so low up and down this Blue Jays lineup. It's part of their game. It's one of the things they do really, really well. They limit strikeouts. A few guys at the top draw pretty strong walk rates, but everybody else kind of limited, just putting the ball in play with limited degrees of hard hit, varying degrees of hard hit. But they found a lot of success in kind of an old school hit tool focused mentality this year. 4.08 implied total speaks to the quality of Joe Ryan, but each of these lineups I do think is in play against these pitchers. Buxton is a superstar, 15 in the home run model against the downside of Max. I think that's a pretty reasonable option. 57 on DraftKings, 38 on FanDuel, high priced, but everyone else on the Twins is pretty low priced on both sites. So easy enough to reach in stacks. If you're one-offing Byron Buxton, it's a hefty price to pay. Not unreasonable, but hefty. 25 homers, 19 steals, 132 WRC+. Larnach, 44.7% hard hits for only 3,400, 2,900. It's amounted to 16 home runs, a 165 ISO, 101 WRC+. He's solidly in the middle. You've had better success for barrels from him in the past. If he finds one today against a guy who has been giving him up, definite upside for a fair price. Brooks Lee, 3,000, 2,700, 13 home runs. Otherwise, pretty mediocre season at just a 90 WRC+, but low strikeout, low walk. A lot of balls in play out of Lee. Matt Wallner's only 35, 29. He's got a 9.57 in the home run model, just a tick below the magic number. 17 in just 307 plate appearances with 267 ISO on the season. 12.1% walk rate. He does strike out 29% of the time. There are more strikeout targets on board for Max than there are for Joe Ryan today, and Matt Wallner's one of them. But if Max makes that mistake against Wallner, you better believe he's got an opportunity to put it in the seats. Ryan Jeffers, 261, 351, 401, 9 home runs. A solid season. Unspectacular in terms of the power, but getting on base at a very strong clip, a 113 WRC+. Cody Clemens has hit 14 home runs. Everything else about his slash line is pretty ugly. 228 ISO, though. Another guy, if he makes that mistake to the lefty, there's a lot of thunder in that bat. 10.9% barrels, 49.7% hard hit. Royce Lewis just making good contact. No real good results at all to speak of over 281 plate appearances. Has been a lot better in the past, though. We've seen major rushes of power from him. He's not striking out. Shaved 5 points off the strikeout rate year over year while keeping walks up. So there are some interesting things going on, despite the lack of output from Lewis. At 3,000, at 2,800, if you're going to the Twins, he's definitely in play. Edward Julian, another guy who hits the ball extremely hard and finds very little in terms of results. James Outman, you can make that argument just this year, was in and out of the lineup a lot last year and had a substandard year there as well. But a lot of injury kept him off the field, just not able to get consistent plate appearances. In 567 the year before, hit 23 home runs, stole 16 bases, was tremendous. Sneaky player down here that we've been talking about for the last week or so, 8.55 in the home run model. I like the idea of a 2, 3, 4, and then one of these guys, but kind of like that. Because you get the direct correlation with Outman wraparound. You get some correlation from the middle down. You get a $3,600 average price. Twins are another team. Again, it's a low total, but they'll be lower owned for that. And they're very cheap for the quality of bats that are in there. You need backs to make a few mistakes along the way. There's a lot of 0 days that come with this. There's a lot of downside that come with it. But I think they're one of the more interesting contrarian teams. George Springer up at the top of the Blue Jays, 22 homers, 13 steals, a monster return to form season, 231 ISO, a 151 WRC plus, and a crazy 406 xWOBA that speaks to his ability to even perform at higher levels than the quality season we've gotten. 14.7% barrels, 45% hard hits, sub 20% strikeout, 11.7% walk. Nathan Luke's striking out just 12.5, 10.1% walk, 10 home runs in 337 plate appearances, a 104 WRC plus. More reliant on the hit tool, the on-base skills, setting the table for the guys that follow, but a tremendous option in the 2 spot at 38.27. Good argument to be made that he ought to be leading off ahead of everybody else, but then you get a little bit heavily right-handed with Vladdy and Bo Bichette to follow. So I get what they're doing. 53-34 for Vlad, given the premium contact upside. 21 home runs on the season, is up to a 199 ISO. The power's starting to show a little bit more in the overall numbers. Probably not getting to 30 home runs. It would take a monster September to get there, but 25 is easily in play. He's one of the best hitters in baseball, full stop. 414 xWOBA speaks to the underlying quality in a otherwise already tremendous season. Bo Bichette at 304, 348, 471. Another strong return to form for Bo Bichette. 49.2% hard hit rate, 14.5% strikeouts. Just with the ability to put bat on ball, Joe Ryan could be in a lot of danger against this excellent Blue Jays lineup. Dalton Varsho, 47-36, the only guy who strikes out in this lineup, but 15 home runs now in 170 plate appearances, a 357 ISO. He has been cashing in on the power of the premium contact over and over and over again. He's making uncharacteristically good premium contact so far, more than tripled that barrel rate from the last 2 seasons, 10 points added to the hard hit rate. I don't know that he can keep it up, but it's been a tremendous rush. You are paying a tax on both sites, more so I'd say on FanDuel by a little bit, for the power that he's already put out there. 15 home runs that you're not scoring points for today that you're kind of paying for. So bear that in mind with Varsho, but does have a lot of upside from the left side against Joe Ryan on the right day. Andrew Kirk, tremendous season, 293, 354, 412, a 115 WRC plus. Easy to reach at 35 where you need catchers, 28 where you don't, always in play. Ernie Clement, little hit tool focused. He's down to 272, 306, 393, but can still find success. Has found a little pocket of power as well. 9 home runs despite just 2.2% barrels, 25.9% hard hit. Very low strikeout, low walk, so you get a lot of opportunities from Ernie Clement. Interesting bat from down lineup. Ty France, another guy, low strikeout, low walk, a lot of contact, higher quality contact from France than from either Ernie Clement or Andres Jimenez in the 9 spot. 257, 327, 361, just 6 homers though, just a 104 ISO, has not been able to capitalize on the better, well, that's average contact, but it's better than the other 2 guys. Clement has been more interesting overall in the run-up to today. Going forward, you would argue that Ty France would be the more interesting hitter. The 340 xWOBA speaks to that. The 290 for Ernie Clement that's exactly what I'm trying to illustrate. And then Andres Jimenez mix and match quality from the bottom spot. Boy. Not a lot of daylight between those pitcher projections. A little bit more on DK. Joe Ryan. Max Scherzer, Blue Jays bats, Twins bats. 4 corners game, though. I think, again, the Twins maybe a little bit more on the board than that total might speak to. Jake likes the Schlittler and Scherzer pairing. Yeah, a lot of upside there. Fair pricing. 26 people here watching. Hit the like button. Hit the like button if you're listening an hour or 2 from now on Fast Forward. Appreciate everybody. We managed to get on a little bit earlier today. We're sliding way back into the 4 o'clock hour, and that was not good for our typical show pace. Phillies lineup is in. Let's get them on the board here. So Kodai Senga, capable pitcher, but walks too many in his typical starts. That double-digit walk rate that he's got is a problem, especially against a team that can find some walk. Several of the hitters up at the top, absolutely tremendous, including Kyle Schwarber. Bryce Harper is drawing the walk. A little bit in the middle, tapers off with the 6.4, 6.0 around Real Muto and Alec Boehm. But Brandon Marsh, always capable of getting on base via the walk. Max Kepler, same thing, especially this year. It's enhanced over last year, more like it was 2 years ago. And a little bit of walk from the lower end guys down toward the bottom. So definitely exploit that 11.4% walk rate that Kodai Senga shows. A couple of the Phillies strike out at aggressive clips, but they're also some of their better overall hitters, so you don't really sweat it. There are strikeouts on deck for Kodai Senga. But then there's some ability around Boehm, Kepler, Bryson Stott, Trey Turner at the top of the lineup to limit strikeout. Kodai Senga this season, 22.6% Ks despite the 11.6% swinging strike rate. I'd say underperforming in terms of finishing hitters off over his 20 starts. He hasn't been bad as far as power, just 2.51% home runs, but there's some hard hit in there. Slightly over the mark there. There's a fair number of barrels, while not being an alarming barrel rate. There are certainly barrels available against him. This is believable, but could easily be a little bit higher. 2.58 ERA should definitely be higher. His xFIP is 4.31. You can see all the walks available right there in the whip at 1.25. A flawed pitcher for sure. A little bit of upside, 8,000 inoffensively priced on DraftKings. I think he's in the mix over there a little bit more probably than the 9 on FanDuel. But the Phillies do come in at a sub-4 total. So I'd say he's at least on the board at a mid-board type projection. He was here, exactly in the middle of the board. The other guy is all the way up there. Despite the quality of the opposing lineup, Christopher Sanchez is pretty fantastic. 26.6% strikeouts on the season, a 2.46 ERA that is not really betrayed by a 2.82 xFIP. Slightly higher, but less than half a run higher. 13.4% swinging, 31.2% CSW. Very realistically limits home run upside, 3.7 degree average launch this year, resulting in just 1.57% home runs, limiting barrels to just 5.9%, partially due to the ability to keep the ball down. If you can take the launch away, it's difficult to find those barrels, but just largely mistake-free throughout the season. It's been absolutely excellent. 114 by Stuff Plus as well. 97, probably a little too cheap on DraftKings. 10.6, reasonably fully priced on FanDuel. 12 strikeout game in the last one against the Mariners. Not saying we're going back to 12 Ks, but there is definite 6-7 strikeout upside available. He also struck out 12 over 9 innings on the 22nd against the Red Sox. He did it to the Mariners in just 6 1/3. Gave up 2 earned runs on 6 hits. Fantastic outing. 3 earned runs over 6 against Cincinnati at Cincinnati. Struck out 6, walked 1. Maybe we'll look at a day that's more along those lines. The Mets are good at sequencing. They could probably get a couple of these guys on base, maybe punch a few runs across. But the big downside day, the blow up, the day where Sanchez isn't at least worth his salary, few and far between. Mets at just a 3.60 implied total. If you go to the Phils against Senga, I think they're the more realistic upside offense here. Turner at 59.38, a little bit cheaper on the FanDuel slate. Same thing with Bryce Harper. No, actually 56.38 is a little bit more even up. So a little discount for Turner on FanDuel there. Little discount maybe for Harper at 56 on DraftKings. Still very, very expensive relative to both caps, but playing it slightly differently. Turner's got 14 homers, 32 stolen bases, a 123 WRC plus. Again, very low strikeout, mid-walk, so a lot of just well-struck balls in play out of Turner. Kyle Schwarber. He's got 45 home runs this season, a 325 ISO, just one of the best power bats in baseball. He's cut a few points off strikeout year over year and going back to 2 years ago, maintaining a still nearly 15% walk rate, just one of the best 3 true outcomes guys, and he's striking out a little bit less, 61.2% hard hit rate this year. Bryce Harper, 12.8% barrel, 48.3% hard hits, 21 homers, 11 steals. Maybe we could argue a little bit around that home run total being a little lower than we might expect, than you might be able to see in the hard hit rate, but a 237 ISO. He's been tremendous overall. 135 WRC plus. Nothing at all to dislike about Bryce Harper, except for the fact that he was so far never a Yankee. JT Realmuto, 39, 29, 10 home runs in 440 plate appearances. The power's been down a little bit, 138 ISO. Overall, though, creating runs 8% better than average. A solid slash line with the 278, 333 part of it. 46.8% hard hits and 8.8% barrels. He can still connect with the baseball pretty aggressively when he needs to. Alec Bohm, low strikeout, low walk, a lot of premium contact at 46.3% hard hits, just 6.7% barrels. As I've said a number of times, to me, he's like the right-handed Vinny Pasquantino. Now we just need him to find the barrels a little bit more like Vinny did, and we result in more home runs, a little bit more power output than the 118 ISO that he's put up this year. There's a better hitter than that lurking in there, but still productive guy, 103 WRC plus. Brandon Marsh, good at drawing walks, a little bit down this year in terms of the walks. It's impacted the on base at 322, but that's still a good enough on base from a very affordable outfielder who does have a little bit of power in that bat as well. 8.3% barrels, 47.2% hard hits, but just 7 home runs, just a 137 ISO across 330 plate appearances. The results have been a little bit more limited than the quality. Max Kepler's got 13 home runs, but an otherwise limited slash line across his 392 chances this year. But the premium contact has been back in a big way from Max. He's cut strikeout down year over year. He's pushed walks back up. That's a really interesting bat at 36 at 27 down toward the bottom of the Phillies. And again, if we're getting guys on base and just free opportunities against Kodai Senga here, I like the upside for the Phils. Harrison Bader at 31-26. A little bit better than a mix and match quality player this year. Solid premium contact that he's pushed up year over year pretty significantly in his 369 plate appearances this season. 13 homers, 10 stolen bases, been getting on base at an aggressive clip, 341, creating runs significantly. Bryson Stott, a little bit more limited, but another low strikeout, fairly high walk player from the bottom of the lineup. You can do worse as a wraparound, 320 on base, second baseman for a fair price. Not a bad option to get into a lineup, but I like this little stretch of cheap bats with a little bit of power, a little bit of walk ability. You got to go 2 of the top guys probably. And then I think you get to realistically get to Realmuto. And then depending on how you wanted to play it, positions, etc. You can go those 3 and then these 2. And you're at 45-20, which is reasonable because we're getting Harper and Schwarber in there. If you go through Bohm, you push that average up slightly, but not all that noticeably. Like, let's take Marsh out of it, connect Bohm in there, and you're at 46-40. No major difference. It's a solid mid price as far as that team goes, considering some of the upside bats you get off the top. If you get all 3, can we get there if we just go like this? Actually, all 3 plus, in that case, probably Marsh and Bader. 48-20. You get Turner, Schwarber, and Harper. And then Marsh and Bader. It's doable at the top of the Phils to get all 3 stars. On the Mets side, a little bit more affordable, it looks like. Going up against the way better pitcher between these 2 guys, though. Same thing on FanDuel, a little bit more affordable than the Phils up top. You got Starling Marte hitting third, 3,600, 2,600. Nice point of discount there. He's got respectable contact numbers that are similar to his past seasons. He's cut strikeout from 21.6 last year, 20.2 the year before, down to 18% over his 250 plate appearances this year. 289, 361, 454. If nothing else, that's a very strong table-setting option to put ahead of Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, Brandon Nimmo. You're looking for him to reset the table basically after Juan Soto's cleared it from the 2 spot. Soto's got 32 home runs, 21 stolen bases, a 388 on base, a 246 ISO, a ridiculous 442 xWOB under the surface, 18.2% barrels, 55.4% hard hits. People like to complain about this hitter. Dear Mets fans, I would love to have him back. Sincerely, every Yankees fan. 19.4% strikeouts against 18.3% walks. It's a generational hitter. 5,700, 4,000, a little bit affordable. Francisco Lindor at 56-37 across the top, 25 home runs, 23 stolen bases, another tremendous season out of Lindor, 196 ISO, 124 WRC plus. Alonso's got 29 home runs. We're easily cresting 30, 35 in play, 245 ISO on the season, a 136 WRC plus, just a tremendous power bat. Mark Vientos, 10.5% barrel, 50.6% hard hit. I know the results have been bad over 350 plate appearances. He's got 12 home runs, just a 173 ISO. But this is tremendous. It's a little bit off the mark in terms of the barrels from last season when he had the monster home run output. But look how cheap he is. $3,000. If you're choosing to target Christopher Sanchez, do it with Mark Vientos in there at these cheap prices. It will help. Brendan Nimmo, lefty here, not ideal against a lefty like this. 46-31. He's in play for the on-base skills. He does have power, 20 home runs on the board, 12 stolen bases. Tremendous bat, but I prefer to get him when he's more, up in this territory. Tyrone Taylor, Jeff McNeil, Luis Torrens down the bottom of the lineup. Taylor hasn't given us all that much. 206, 260, 296 this year, a 58 WRC+. McNeil's interesting, though. 12 home runs is not really what I'm looking for from Jeff McNeil, but he's hit them. He's got a 199 ISO, and you're not paying any tax for the power, which is good because it's not that realistic to expect it. But he's a very low strikeout, high walk, good contact hitter. So another guy, if I'm looking for a little sequencing against Chris Sanchez and looking to just get some of the guys that might be part of chasing Sanchez early, and then we catch the wave against the bullpen, I think Jeff McNeil would be in that mix at a cheap price. And then Luis Torrens has put great bat on ball all season and seen nothing for it. None of this over here, except for the 354 xwOBA, aligns at all with that premium contact. So I think you can catch a little bit of 2,300 very cheap upside if you're leaning Mets already from the catcher where you have to play the position. You do not go out of your way to roster Luis Torrens, though. Sanchez, Phillies, Senga, Mets. Quillet, I'd say more playable than sneaky. Right? I think that what's he owned at? Let's see where he's owned. The difference is semantic and completely unimportant between playable and sneaky. In this sense that I probably shouldn't even be spending time to go to it. He's drawing mid-single digits ownership, which is on DraftKings, which is obviously low owned, perfectly fine, perfectly sneaky. Guy I would compare it to as far as what's sneaky, it would be Erod, who is projected for half that ownership, but it's irrelevant when you're cutting 5.5 and going to 2.5% or thereabouts. But there's a lot of visible downside. One with Erod, who's on the board here. So as a talking point, 6,200, 7,700 for him at no ownership. He's got a 5.40 ERA, a 4.41 xFIP, just 21.5% strikeout against 8.6% walk, going up against one of the better run-scoring teams in baseball this season, 4.59 implied total for his opponent. But he's very, very cheap, going up against the Brewers, where Senga is 8,000. He's 9,000. He's more in line with the high-price SP2, low-price SP1 crowd than he is with like the super discount sneaky guys crowd like Erod might be. I don't like the matchup for either pitcher, but if I'm going to choose to tangle with one of these teams, and maybe I'm wrong, I think I would rather tangle with the Brewers. Good as they've been for run creation, and they have been quite good at it, there are differences between these two teams, the Brewers and the Phillies. The Brewers have one mid-board type star in Christian Yelich. And again, where it's not just about stars, the numbers are the important factor. But Yelich is tremendous. No argument here. You've got a couple of guys who are still performing, but diminished, like William Contreras. Or he's probably the one guy for that. Then you've got some upstart options here. You've got some young players, some unproven guys, some slap hitters that are overperforming. So the combination of factors in what makes the Brewers good this season, and you can see only Yelich is above 25, is even above 15 home runs. There's much better power hitting teams on the board. There are some strikeouts in this lineup for Erod to go chase. A little bit more so, I would say, than the Phils. Erod, bad as he can be, roller coaster that he is, that's factored into the pricing. He walks fewer hitters. 8.6% walk. His whip is largely based on a lot of downside that's come through BABIP, which is arguably a little bit of bad luck. Where Senga directly gives away opportunities. Like, he puts guys on base. Guys wind up on base against Erod. There's a difference there. So, again, Senga, to me, I think the correct word to use, the correct semantic nonsense, would be playable. Sneaky, I think, implies more desirability in the play. And I think Erod is more sneaky, less likely, probably lower end, but the strikeout upside is essentially the same at worst. He's got less downside for walk, and he's had a few very, very good games this year. When he is on, he can be excellent. Just pulling Brandon Woodruff up here real quick. So with Woodruff, I have no reason to expect that this is going to be a shorter start. 4 1/3 in the last one against the Cubs, but he was having a not peak form type day. He gave up 5 hits, 3 walks. He struck out 6, so there was a decent strikeout total. He'd given up 3 runs, came out in the 5th inning. The start prior to that was the one that stood out. He only went 4 innings. I forget what happened in that game on the 13th, and it doesn't pop up. I don't know if they got rained on or what that was. Struck out 4, walked 2, 4 hits, and faced only 18 hitters. Prior to that, he had gone 6 innings in 3 straight before that one. So the depth has been there. They did move this start back. He was originally scheduled to pitch yesterday. But I think it's just a matter of he was on 4 days rest yesterday, full rest today. And now they also get him against a higher quality Diamondbacks team. So I think it makes sense. And I think 6 innings should be the general expectation here, with upside for him if everything's going great to pitch into the 7th. There is danger coming from the Diamondbacks lineup. You can see even against a spectacular pitcher like Woodruff, he's given up a little bit of premium contact. He's at a 4.17% home run, despite being excellent in those 2 categories. Lost a couple barrels and on a fly ball trajectory generally. So playing up a little bit of power there for Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll. But overall, this is a lower-end Diamondbacks team than we've had for a large chunk of the season. It's the one we've had more recently. 10,000, 10-3, very much in play for Brandon Woodruff on both sides. Some Diamondbacks bats against, I don't think is the craziest idea. We do have their lineup, not the Brewers yet. So we've got this ongoing configuration where they've got Perdomo leading off, which is the right way to do it. 393 on base for him. Excellent, excellent table setter ahead of Marte and Corbin Carroll. He's correctly priced, I think, at 48.36. A little bit less expensive than the other 2 while being in the appropriate spot for how much he's going to be on base ahead of them, how much run creation he's doing in that spot. 136 overall WRC plus for the season. He's just been absolutely tremendous. Very low strikeout at 10.9, walking at a 14% clip. That is a ridiculous combination of factors. Ketel Marte, 14.9% strikeout, 12.8% walk. Monster premium contact, 23 home runs from the second baseman. Corbin Carroll at 61, 4,000, entirely reasonable if we're choosing to attack Brandon Woodruff here. 27 homers, 20 stolen bases on the year, a 300 ISO, 139 WRC plus. Been fantastic. We trail off a little bit while still having some good players at cheap prices. So we can get invested in Diamondbacks full stacks if we're looking to go that direction. But that's a daunting total to do that. 353 implied. Pavin Smith's been largely excellent most of the season. 360 on base over 279 plate appearances. A little in and out of the lineup, but a 120 WRC plus overall. High strikeout, but high walk. So he's been a somewhat of a 3 true outcomes hitter. Needs to find a little bit more output for his 11.3% barrels, his 45.3% hard hits, then 8 home runs and a 174 ISO to really take that 3 true outcomes mantle. But he's along those lines. Guillermo Moreno has been excellent, 17.9% strikeouts against 6.6% walk. A lot of well-struck balls in play from a very affordably priced catcher. He gets on base at a 332 clip over his 196 plate appearances, showing a little bit of power, a 114 WRC plus. Excellent option. For slightly cheaper, Adrian Del Castillo does a lot of those things. He doesn't draw the walks. He does strike out quite a bit more, but he's got a little bit of power to share with us from the left side. Reasonable option, but obviously positionally blocked with Moreno. Less of a problem on FanDuel, but you'd probably still only go with one of those guys on the FanDuel slate if you're going to them at all. Blaze, another solid option for premium contact from the bottom of the lineup. He's come away with 5 home runs in his 147 plate appearances. Just a 180 ISO, but a 107 WRC plus overall. Striking out a bit too much for a guy who doesn't really draw walks, but when he's made contact, it's been aggressively good, and he's very low price for it. And then Alec Thomas, a solid mix and match option, but just another outfielder overall. Quiet day in chat today. Where you guys at? That was a good question from Quality Soul. Maybe everybody's just quiet because you see how a question can derail us for like 7 minutes as we investigate the Senga versus Erod question. Brewers bats going up against Erod here. Extremely, extremely playable. 4.59 implied total for them. Definitely a target. 4,100, 3,000 for Sal Frelick. Solid hit tool on base. A little bit of stolen base upside out of Sal. Really strong contributions across every scoring category for fantasy baseball this season. Not a monster power bat, but situational power. He's come away with 9 home runs, but just a 115 ISO overall. 121 WRC plus, though, 18 stolen bases, creating runs ahead of Caleb Durbin, who's slashing 249, 326, 377 this season with just a 129 ISO, a league average 100 WRC plus, just 8 home runs, not a lot of premium contact. I don't love the idea of Durbin in the 2 spot. I'm hoping they don't do that. Still not out. Oh, good. Per Aaron Boone, Anthony Volpe will play regularly starting on Tuesday. So Boone made the decision to bench him and then immediately went back on it. Why not keep one of the worst hitters in baseball over the last 3 years in the lineup, who's also not good defensively? Anyway, Caleb Durbin. So he's just cheap in this spot. So for our purposes, it's fine. Just getting to a guy who's going to be hitting between Frelick and the Contreras, Yelich, Vaughn part of the lineup. But for my money, if you want a non-Yelich in that spot, and I get, righty-lefty here, why not go with Isaac Collins? Switch hitter, 3,800, 2,900, slashing 273, 372, 424. He's also hit 8 home runs, but he's got a better ISO at 151. He barrels the ball slightly more. Really, it ought to be Andrew Vaughn. Monster premium contact from the right side. 14 home runs and 351 plate appearances, a 173 ISO, but quite a bit better than that overall since joining the Brewers. That would be the righty I would put 2. Or just move Contreras up a spot. It's a weird slot for Caleb Durbin. Contreras at 49, 31, more expensive where you have to play catchers. 14 home runs, a 113 WRC plus, solid run creator, but coming back down the other side of the mountain. Very low strikeout, very high walk rate, though. Guy who stays involved, still hits the ball hard at 47.5% hard hit. He's just lost half his barrels year over year. Yelich at 52.35, very reasonably priced to attack Erod. I don't worry about lefty-lefty here with Christian Yelich against Erod. Vaughn from the 5, tremendous option. Again, been fantastic since joining this team. 6.10 in the home run model could be believably a little bit higher against Erod. Erod always available power against. Not terrible for it most of the time, particularly when he's on. Bryce Turang dips lefty down to the 7 spot in the lineup, 286, 351, 426 overall on the season. A playable option for a fair price from down lineup. Lockridge, Monasterio, mix and match pieces. Neither guy succeeding all that much. Monasterio, rather, over 83 plate appearances, has gotten to 104 WRC+, but the 285 xWOBA kind of explains that away as a little bit of overperformance. Mix and match at best. Woodruff, Brewers bats, Erod for cheap, Diamondbacks at the bottom. Yeah, beyond the rabbit hole. That's what I was saying when we were talking about that before. I liked the change, putting Jose Caballero in there. He's a good defensive player, adds a little something via the speed. He's got a decent enough bat. I'm not arguing that he's much better of a hitter than Volpe, but it's a cleaner game. Volpe's just never in it mentally, makes too many stupid mistakes, too many rushed throws. He's just not smooth at short. I know he won a Gold Glove, but like, who cares? Gold Glove's a popularity contest. And he's just been so bad at the plate. He's a better fantasy player. Volpe is a better fantasy player than a real life player. He does contribute some counting stats. So we've talked about him in stronger terms for DFS upside than for actual real life baseball upside. Royals and the White Sox. We've got both of these lineups. Let me grab them. Royals looking very solid here against Mr. Shane Smith. And the White Sox lower end against Noah Cameron. We know that Cameron can give us some depth. He's been a little bit more limited. He has long stretches of pitching deep into games and then hits a little bit of slowdown, at least so far. Last time out, 4 2/3. Hasn't completed the 6th in his last 3, but pitched into the 6th in 2 of those. Over those 3 starts, he's given up only 3 earned runs. One was at Minnesota, one against the White Sox, these White Sox, and one against the Rangers. 2 starts back against these White Sox, 5 1/3. Just 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, just 1 earned run that came on a solo homer, Lubov, if I remember correctly. 6 hits. That's a very, very capable start. 8,700, 9,200. Not bad pricing. He's thrown 103 innings in his 18 starts, pitching to a 2.53 ERA, but a 4.21 xFIP. Noteworthy. Generating an 11.2% swinging strike rate, but just finding only 20% strikeouts overall. Only finishing off 1 5, despite finding some swing and miss along the way. Some things in here that need definite improvement, but allowing just 5% barrels on a respectable 12.9 degree average launch, way under the mark there and there, so he's inducing weak and medium contact, the big plus. Just 2.65% home runs, entirely realistic. It's having an impact on the home run numbers here, even for a guy like Lubov, who's just been punching ticket after ticket against left-handed pitching this season. Does have a little impact there. If I'd take somebody from the White Sox today, it would definitely be him. It's not coming up for some reason. 6 of his 14 home runs have come in just 109 plate appearances against left-handed pitching versus the 8 that he's hit in 317 this season. He's also slashing 270, 383, 494 with a 225 ISO and a 139 WRC plus in those plate appearances against lefties versus a 212, 273, 330 with a 118 ISO and a 67 WRC plus against righties. Against lefties, he's striking out just 20.2% of the time and walking 14.7% of the time versus 28.4 and 7.6% walks against righties. So he has been absolutely a different hitter against lefties than he has been against righties. But even with that, I lean Cameron. I really do. Over 1,039 plate appearances, the active roster against lefties has been productive. A 103 WRC plus comes with a 163 ISO. It's respectable while not being monumental. 256, 317, 419 collectively. They do have some righties in this lineup that can drive the ball effectively against left-handed pitching. I'm not arguing with it. I like Lennon Sosa's bat, but he's no secret anymore. Every single person who goes to the White Sox is at least going to consider a $3,900, $2,900 Lennon Sosa from the cleanup spot. 10.1% barrel, 44% hard hits, 17 home runs to lead this team. 270, 297, 439. There's a glaring flaw right there. and it's present for a number of these hitters. But a 345 xWOBA overall on the season, 102 WRC plus. But again, he's not a secret anymore. He's less appealing. Edgar Gatto is an interesting hitter, 2,700, 2,400. He's been good against lefties as well. 285, 350, 382 on the season, a 107 WRC plus. I said it and I immediately regretted it. I forgot. Oh, wait, nope. These are in different order because he's a switch hitter. I hate how they do that. We're fine. Against lefties as a righty, Edgar Gatto, 375, 417, 490. 156 WRC plus. I was remembering it the wrong way around because I did this the last time where they go lefty then righty when it's a standard hitter, and when it's a switch hitter, they switch it up for some reason on Fangraphs. So, yeah, Edgar Gatto, a lot of upside against the lefty as well. 27, very cheap for a quality bat. Doesn't really strike out, draws a fair number of walks, hits the ball very hard. Solid slash line, just 4 home runs, just a .097 ISO overall, not a power bat, but a solid run creator. Doesn't really strike out, puts the ball in play. Miguel Vargas, 13 home runs, moderate output overall, miscast in the 2 spot. That's like an 8 hitter. 234, 316, 398, and 99 WRC plus, but it's the White Sox. Chase Meadroth does have a good hit tool, 252, 332, 318. He's gotten on base a little bit. Definitely hit a big cool down stretch after a pretty strong start. Just cheap in the middle infield. A filler overall, though, if you're choosing to attack Noah Cameron here. Curtis Mead at 25, 23, very cheap from down lineup, 239, 322, 321 on the season, 84 WRC plus. Michael A., one of our favorite low-end, bottom of the lineup power bats, 11.3% barrels, 45.7% hard hits is what we're looking for out of Michael A. 8 home runs and 257 chances, a 190 ISO. Those are very much Michael A. Taylor numbers. If I'm going to the White Sox today, I am drawing shares of Michael A. Taylor for the sneaky power from down lineup against the lefty. That's exactly what we want him for. He will be lower owned than the more popular, the more obvious guys like Lenyn Sosa from the middle of the lineup, like Lou Bob. Corey Lee at the dead min price on DraftKings as a second catcher in this lineup now. $12 home runs last year and 394 plate appearances overall. For the career, 3 of his 13 home runs have come in 139 plate appearances against lefties, but he slashes he's sub Mendoza against both hands, but 173, 212, 359 against lefties. 0.086 ISO, 30 WRC plus. That's pretty bad. Brooks Baldwin, mix and match quality from the bottom spot. There's still not a lot to love about this White Sox team. I feel like every time I've trash talked them lately, though, they've exploded for like a dozen runs. So let's temper expectations for Noah Cameron as well. But I lean Cameron between the two. 87.92 is appropriately priced. Shane Smith at 68 at 71 does have a 22.1% strikeout rate with an 11.9% swinging strike rate. Those are significant numbers, but more for a go-forward sense, more for explaining why the Royals might underperform. But overall, he's very gettable. 4.12 ERA, a 4.40 xFIP that inflates that a little bit. 10.2% walks to go with the limited strikeout, or the overall strikeout output. It's a very average strikeout rate against a too high walk rate, despite the above average swinging strike rate. A lot of premium contact as well. He's saved himself by not giving up too many barrels along the way, just 7.3% barrels on a 12.5 degree average launch. That's cut into the home run output a little bit, 2.81% home runs, but it comes with 46.4% hard hits, 90.6 miles an hour of exit velo, which is going to play directly into all of those line drive bats, all of those low strikeout, heavy contact bats that the Royals bring to the table. Only Mike Yastrzemski in this lineup at 21.7% this season is above 20% strikeouts. Everybody else, the 18.8, 19.7, 19.3, and then mid-teens from everybody. Some of their highest quality bats are mid-teen strikeout. Problematic spot for Shane Smith. Monster upside spot for the Royals. 4.52. Love the ability to get to them at, honestly, very fair prices. Yaz at 38.29, 13 home runs, solid 330 on base, a 102 WRC plus, has locked down this leadoff spot and it's become a good table setter with a little bit of power upside individually ahead of Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, etc. Vinny's been on an absolute tear. He's up to 28 home runs. 264, 324, 480, a 216 ISO. He's up to a 10.4% barrel. 16% strikeout, 7.1% walk. The strikeout rate's been coming down all season since he started a little too high. 117 WRC plus. Still only 45-32. I don't really understand why he's so cheap on both sides, but take advantage. 58-38 for Bobby Witt is perfectly fine. 19 home runs, 34 stolen bases, a 130 WRC plus out of him. Just a superstar caliber shortstop. Michael Garcia has been putting up star caliber numbers all season. 46, 3,000 across sites. Not that they've noticed. 300, 363, 469, 13 home runs. I think he's got 5 triples to go with that. 22 stolen bases, a 128 WRC plus, a 347 xWOBA. Michael Garcia is a tremendous option. 13.4% strikeout, 9.1% walk. On FanDuel, 3,000 at second, third, and in the outfield. Keep him in mind as a one-off guy. If you just have like a mid-type price left, I think that's a great one-off opportunity from the heart of this Royals lineup. Sal Peta is just 4,300 where you have to play catchers, 2,900 where you don't. 22 home runs on the season, a 202 ISO, 14.9% barrel. And then the stretch of same types. Adam Frazier, Jonathan India, Kyle Isbell. Mix and match quality. You get the infield options on Frazier and India. DraftKings has taken away India's multi-position, though. He's only second base only now. That makes him a little bit less valuable, but second base is the spot you'd want him. Bad season out of him overall, 8 home runs, no stolen bases. Frazier has been a little bit better head-to-head, but neither guy all that appealing. And then Isbell's at best just another outfielder. 264, 305, 374, and 85 WRC plus. Highly meh. Doesn't really make good contact. Michael Massey, though, snuck in the lineup here. Deadman priced, also second base and outfield eligible over there. Same thing over here, positionally 2,200. The reason I'm kind of intrigued is the 7.1% barrel, the 7.8 from the last 2 seasons. Very low strikeout, low walk. Guy you can put effective bat on ball. He's been bad over 209 plate appearances this year, just a .056 ISO. Last year, he had a 190 ISO, 14 home runs, and only 356 plate appearances. That is an interesting hitter from down lineup for the dead min price to help cheapen up a 5-man on DK. The hell? Oop. Okay. Side of the coffee mug hit the space bar. So we go Massey. Obviously 1, 2. I want Garcia. I'm gonna just top 4 that. We'll leave Yaz out at the top there and we'll gain a little salary. 42.40 for the 4 best bats on the Royals and Michael Massey. That plays. I think they're gonna be popular there. That's gotta be big time in play, right? Come on, every time I need the ownership. Intriguing. Actually, okay, so Massey, not looking like a secret, not problematic ownership, but creeping into the double digits on DraftKings at that min price. So that's a really interesting option. But he is getting a little bit of attention within Royal stacks. 2 of the more obvious guys are also owned in double digits. Everybody else is sub 10%, including one of the guys I got really excited about and the catcher. So, yeah, there's a lot of DK upside. And I don't think that if these ownership projections are right anyway, not as popular as they ought to be. Really interesting Royal spot. Royals bats, Noah Cameron, White Sox bats, and Shane Smith. You could throw a dart at him at 68 on DK. We've got so many good options that I don't think we need to go to a bad option against a very high quality team that's going to run directly into what he does poorly. I just don't like it. Pirates and the Cards. Both of these lineups are in. What's a talking point I can use while I'm popping this low-end Pirates lineup in? How about Tommy Pham in the resurgent second half that he's had? pulling things together in a big, big way. Not that anybody would really notice because it's on a terrible Pirates team. But Tommy, and not that the sites have noticed, at 3,000, 2,800, but he's up to 267, 341, 388. He's created runs 2% better than average now. 7 home runs, 5 stolen bases. Not exactly a ton of counting stat output, but one of the better bats on the Pirates now at worst. 6.4% barrel and 48.3% hard hit look a lot like the old Tommy Pham. Drawing a 10% walk rate, 22.3% strikeouts. Walks are up. Strikeouts are exactly the same as they were last year. He's been very effective. The problem is he's surrounded by a lot of garbage. Ronnie Simon at the top of the Pirates lineup for 21-22, over 83 plate appearances, 222, 293, 250, a 54 WRC plus. Do not? I thought Simon had a cup of coffee along the way there. In 302 minor league plate appearances this year, 8 home runs, did steal 28 bases while getting on at a 397 clip. That keeps him interesting, I guess, as a table setter. 130 WRC plus. A lot of speed, low strikeout, reasonable walk numbers throughout several stops in the minors. He's also 25, though. So we're kind of cresting toward quad A type territory without any power to really help him get over the hump. So just a low-end player. Maybe he gets on base, but so far at the major league level, 293 on base over 83 chances. Nick Gonzalez at 3,500, 2,700, solid slash line at 279, 323, 389, but very unspectacular. 5 home runs and 285 chances, a 109 ISO, 197 WRC plus. Brian Reynolds at 45, 3,000, 13 home runs, a 157 ISO, and 94 WRC plus. I'm honestly not sure why he's 4,500 anymore. The premium contact has been there. The results have not. He's much, much better than this. You know, this was formerly the correct price, but not for this year's Brian Reynolds. 3,000 on FanDuel is a little bit cheaper than that, I think, but relatively both sites have Reynolds up a little bit. Has he been on fire lately or something that I haven't noticed? Like I said, you don't tend to notice a lot that happens with the Pirates. I mean, that's not special. He's had a good August. 3 home runs, 9 runs, 12 ribbies, 9 doubles in there and a triple. Slashing 305, 374, 549 for the month, a 154 WRC plus, a 244 ISO. So if you want to pay a little bit of tax for this last month of Brian Reynolds looking like the old Brian Reynolds, it's not terrible because you're just paying what Brian Reynolds in his former years should have cost or should cost. But you were no longer getting a discount for his underperformance, his mostly season-long underperformance. Spencer Harwitz is an interesting bat at 32, 29 across sites. Hasn't done much this season, but 6 home runs in 307 chances, just a 98 WRC plus. He's got a better hit tool and a little bit of pop in that bat. It was on display somewhat with a dozen home runs in 381 plate appearances last year while slashing 265, 357, 433. Getting a more full-time opportunity now that his injuries are finally healed. Sub 20% strikeout, 9.1% walk. Pham, as mentioned, playable in the outfield given the resurgence. Jared Triolo at 25-23, a mix and match quality guy across multiple positions on FanDuel. Shortstop only, very unappealing on FanDuel. 82 WRC plus over 240 plate appearances. Jack Suwinski does have power from the left side. He's only managed 3 home runs and a 106 ISO despite 13% barrels in his 137 plate appearances this year. And he's slashing 124, 277, 230. There are people in chat who could probably do that. 32.1% strikeout rate on the season. He's drawing some walks to go with that, but very, very limited so far. Joey Bart, Leover Peguero down lineup, mix and match quality out of both of those players so far this season. Bart with a pretty mediocre 276 plate appearances despite some decent contact. Heavy strikeout, but a decent walk rate, 94 WRC plus, and Peguero's not really done anything at all. 4 home runs and 65 plate appearances. I will give him that, the 217 ISO despite limited premium contact. Heavy strikeouts, not that many walks. That's all going up against Michael McGreevy, who, as mentioned, playable, 6,300, 7,000. Not a high-end pitcher by any means, 4.42 ERA and a 4.19 xFIP. Doesn't strike anybody out. 14% strikeout rate. Even against this team, going to be hard pressed to find more than 3-4 strikeouts along the way. But also hasn't walked anybody, just a 3% walk rate overall. Last time out, 6 innings of 3-run ball, struck out 5, walked 0 against Miami. 6 innings of 3-run ball against Colorado, struck out just 2 and walked 0. That is a highly comparable team. 3 earned runs came on a home run and 7 hits in that one. But against the Cubs, 6 hits, only 3 strikeouts in that one as well, 1 walk, but gave up no runs over 6. You get anything resembling that start against a very low-end Pirates team? And honestly, at these prices, even if he comes out and he gives up those 3 runs, if he finds a couple strikeouts along the way, limits the damage overall, you're not completely shot in the foot from the bargain basement prices. Joan Oviedo on the other side, 67-65, coming in with a 33.3% strikeout rate, but that's in only 6 innings and 2 starts. Five innings the last time out, struck out 6, give up 1 earned on a home run, 2 hitter. That was against the Blue Jays. It's a pretty strong start over 5 innings. Just 1 inning in his first performance of the year. That was against San Francisco. Gave up 2 earned runs in the 1 inning, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks. That's where the skewed numbers come from a little bit. He did make a handful of starts at the minor league level, started 8 times, had a 3.12 ERA over 26 innings, 36 strikeouts, gave up 3 home runs over 104 hitters. Walked just 7 over that stretch. Yeah. 2 seasons ago, he did make 32 starts, had a 4.31 ERA, but a 4.87 xFIP, 20.2% strikeout against 10.6% walk. Just was not good, but was capable of finding swinging strikes from time to time. Was capable at limiting home runs, but it wasn't really attributable to anything overly great here. These are all mid-type numbers. Season before that, in 8 starts, 22 and change strikeouts, 3.21 ERA, a 4.14 xFIP. Not overly playable, 67-65. But if you're going to throw this dart, it's more about the opponent for Michael McGreevy than anything. But if you're going to argue just for price, low ownership, then sure, he's in the discount bin. Cardinals mid-board type team. 4.25 implied total for them, though, half a run higher than the opponents. I'm leaning more Cardinals bats in that part of the equation. That said, one Cardinals hitter has more than 15 home runs, and he doesn't have more than 20. That's Wilson Contreras in the middle of the lineup at 19, 199 ISO. Not a single Cardinals hitter has over a 200 ISO. This is a limited team. It really, really is. So going back to it, it actually wouldn't stun me if Oviedo had a decent start here. There are better cheap options on the board, but he's at least in that conversation. Nootbaar at 41.29. Bad season overall, but a good bat. 9.6% barrel and 51.2% hard hits, reminiscent of last year's numbers. 13 home runs, just a 148 ISO for that, though. Doesn't really add up. 239, 330, 387. He's gotten a little bit of success via the on base to push him up to a 104 WRC plus, but a better overall player than this. Mason Wynn, just another shortstop at best. 258, 314, 378, and 96 WRC plus. Just not special up there. Alec Burleson at 43 at 29, mix and match quality outfielder. One of their better bats, but that's not saying much. 285, 336, 447. Solid 344 xWOBA under the surface. 15 home runs on the season, a 119 WRC plus. Again, one of the better Cardinals. Definitely involved if you're going to Cardinals. Not a high priority bat slate wide. Contreras, 47 is a little bit pricey for a pretty limited bat. 261, 345, 460, 127 WRC plus. Been good and definitely their best hitter, but don't love the price. Gorman at 41, solid barrels and hard hits, but those numbers are significantly down for him in terms of the barrels. He's come away with 12 home runs and 299 plate appearances, just a 188 ISO, but a 108 WRC plus, a 335 xWOBA that speaks to the underlying quality. Drawn a lot of walks this year, striking out a little bit less from 37.6. He went down to 29.4 this year. That's still a lot of strikeouts. Thomas Segisi, mix and match quality at 2,300. Jordan Walker, we've talked about the underlying upside quite a bit throughout the season. Still a lot of premium contact, way too many strikeouts and too few walks. No results to speak of, but there is a player in there. I'm convinced of it. Pedro Pajes, the 31.25 mix and match quality catcher, and then Nathan Church from the bottom of the lineup is just cheap. They might play better as a 3-man, honestly. In which case you could go like Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, and then anybody from the top. If you 5-man it, I would say like Nootbaar, obviously those three, and Walker is probably the best 5-man. And you're at just 4,000 a piece exactly. 20 grand for the 5-man. That's not a bad stack. You're going up against Johan Oviedo. There's plenty of upside there. So I'll retract the better as a 3-man because that's a very workable 5-man. FanDuel wise, you do have a lot of positional flex through those hitters, which is nice. Overall, cheap Michael McGreevy darts, Cardinals bats, Pirates bats, Johan Oviedo. I think that's right. OMG Lulz, what's going on? To all the gods here. What's happening, bud? Good to see everybody. Appreciate any thumbs up you might give right down in that territory down there. I think it's actually more like over here, or maybe it's over there on your screen. I'm not sure, but there's a little thumbs up guy hiding down there. If you haven't already clicked it, click it. If you have already clicked it, leave it alone. I'll take the thumbs up. If the show gets really bad from here, like it is right now while I'm rambling about thumbs ups, then take it away. You're at your discretion. Subscribe to the channel if you never have before. Check out rotoscouts.com if you never have before. Subscriptions for everybody are always under $1 a day on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly plan that gives you access to anything that hits that website across all 4 major sports and anything else. Promo code 5ME gives you $5 off. Gives you a weekly plan for exactly $5. So weekends are on me, weekdays $1 a day for weekly plans through the end of August. We'll roll something up for the start of football season in a week. Lorenza Robinson's here. What's going on, Lorenza? Good to see you. Just in time for Angels at Rangers. Another interesting pitching matchup. Both of these lineups are in. DeGrom having a renaissance kind of a season. Not necessarily peaking quite as high as he used to, but it's just nice to see Jacob DeGrom, for one, just healthy and actually pitching and finding a lot of success. He's been really good. He's one of the top 2 projected pitchers for fantasy points and for ownership on both sites. Tremendous upside going up against a confirmed Angels lineup that has a 28.4% strikeout rate. And that is despite a large number from a small sample from Cavadas and same thing from Bryce Teodosio. That's a pretty realistic number for this lineup. They've been 26, 28% throughout the season, regardless of who's in there. Several or all of their key bats strike out quite a bit. So monster upside opportunity for DeGrom, who's pitched to a 27.3% strikeout against 5.5% walks, 2.76 ERA, a 3.29 xFIP, sub-1 whip, 14.3% swinging strikes. Has given up a little bit of premium contact, a little bit of power, but you'll take that with the outrageous upside for K's for missing bats that he comes with. So maybe somebody connects from this lineup. No Mike Trout in the lineup. Neno Moncada, Taylor Ward, Joe Adell, Renifo, Darno, Ohapi. Did Trump get hurt or is he just getting a day off? I had missed that. Yeah, he's just off. 0 for 10 over the weekend. Who cares? It's Mike Trout. That's weird. Not that it really matters. It's a weird headline. It made me pull the standings real quick because I was like, they're not contending. The headline on Sports Illustrated, which I believe is almost entirely written by artificial intelligence these days, was Mike Trout surprisingly out of Angels lineup for huge divisional game versus Rangers. It's not a huge divisional game. The Angels are 10.5 out of the division. Rangers slightly ahead of that. Angels are sub 500, but Mike Trout will not be in the lineup. The way CBS phrased it was after 0 for 10 weekend, again, as if that matters. But definite downgrade for the Angels and a bit of an uptick for Jake DeGrom. So now we're just worried about like Taylor Ward gets bat on ball, Joe Adell gets bat on ball. That is a limited concern for DeGrom. Just pushes him to higher degrees of popularity. He's going to be insanely popular on both sides, but it is well worth taking a big chunk of him. And there's a good argument to be made that he's the best option as far as pitcher upside with a little bit of a safety net, given the downside environment that Tarek Skubal is going to be pitching in a game coming up. Other side of this game, Jose Soriano, 5,700. I highlighted it at the beginning of the show. That is a stupid cheap price for a talented pitcher. He's got a 4.0 ERA. He's got a 3.46 xFIP. What are we doing? 148 and 2/3 in 26 starts. He gives you good depth of start most times out. A lot of hard hit, a lot of exit velo, but a very realistic 1.74% home run rate allowed because he keeps the ball to a negative 3.1 degree average launch angle. We've been talking about this with Jose Soriano all season. 11.4% swinging strike rate, capable of punching his way out of trouble. He's lost a little bit around walks, 10.1% walks. It's got the whip up at 1.38. The hard hits, even on a low trajectory, can get through the infield. He does give up opportunities via the walk and via some BABIP. Last year, similar numbers as far as the strikeout to walk, 20.7% to 9.6, had a 3.42 ERA, a 3.82 xFIP. He's found an additional full point, almost a point and a half of swinging strike this year, getting more reminiscent of the guy who had a 14.8% swinging strike rate and struck out 30.3% in 42 innings of relief work 2 years ago. That is a really, really interesting option at just 5,700. And he's not getting popularity like he should be. Rangers striking out 22.8% of the time overall, 21.6% as a active roster against right-handed pitching. Against righties, the active roster, not necessarily this version of the lineup, but all these guys are on that active roster. 239, 311, 402 collectively against righties this year. Just a 164 ISO. A below average 99 WRC plus collectively. This is an ideal spot to take shots at that if it's actually not getting owned. If it's actually not getting owned, I don't really understand what the slate is doing. But he was not projected for major ownership on the RG projections I was looking at. I'd be curious, actually, without giving away the number, is Jose Soriano projected for significant DK ownership elsewhere? Don't tell us the number, but just say, high ownership, low ownership, or like single digit, double digit is a good way to do that. I'm more curious about the DK number because of that stupid low price. 8,100 is fair on FanDuel. I think he could pay that off easily with innings pitched. I think he's got enough upside to find a few Ks at that price, but it's just an average opportunity over there. This discount is where the opportunity lies. Angels bats against Jake DeGrom doesn't feel like a great idea to me. 3.31 implied total kind of speaks to that, especially without Mike Trout in the lineup. It's just, they'll be very low owned. There's one attribute that you could say is appealing about them, and that's their power and the way it aligns against this version of DeGrom's home run and premium contact numbers. But even those have not been problematic. It's just the one flaw that he's had that you could point to. They hit a lot of home runs, but the strikeouts are where it's at. I mean, if DeGrom's up there missing bats, it's not going to be an issue as far as the home run power. Neto strikes out 26% of the time. So does Moncada. So does Taylor Ward. So does Joe Adell. And then you get into the 30s with the bottom four hitters. Luis Rengifo in the middle of the lineup, the only low strikeout hitter available to them today, 18.6% strikeout rate. There's also no Nolan Shanuel. So one of their better on-base table setter types is also out of the lineup. Moncada has hit the ball squarely all season. There's no arguing with all these barrels, all this hard hit that all four of those hitters have, and that Travis d'Arnaud, Logan O'Hoppe both have at the catcher spot. So additionally, in addition to several of their best bats being out of the lineup entirely, you also have two catchers to contend with on DraftKings, which is not ideal for building lineups. It's a really problematic day for the Angels. Joe Adell's got major power. He's at 29 home runs. We're going over 30 this season. Who was the first one to tell you about it? 30 home runs on the board for Taylor Ward, 254 ISO for him, 248 ISO for Adell. All four of the top hitters have 200 plus ISOs, well over 200 ISOs. All four guys well above average for run creation this season as well. They are the primary engine for this team, but they're a target for Jake DeGrom. Renifo, you're just looking for him to put the ball in play. He's been unsuccessful by and large this season. A little bit of recent improvement, but still 249, 297, 349, a 79 WRC plus. Again, Ohapi and DeGrom, basically the same guy as far as just the ability to hit the ball very hard, but a lot of strikeouts, not that many walks. 24 combined home runs for the two hitters while slashing. I can't do the combined math in my head, but 201 and 226 averages. Both guys significantly sub 300 on base, 69 and 82 WRC plus. I think you get where I'm going. Nico Cavadas does have a little bit of ability, but it hasn't been on display in the major leagues so far, and he's probably just a target for Jake DeGrom. Very low priced if you're going to Angels if you need the price offset. And then Teodosio, mix and match quality option at the bottom. The Rangers against Soriano. If you're not using him, certainly in play. 428 implied total. They're kind of mid-board type option. But we're taking the home run not entirely out of the equation, but significantly out. Everybody below a 5, even their key homer bats. They did get Adolis Garcia back. He had an interesting weekend on the bench for me after coming off the IL. 17 home runs, 12 stolen bases. I think he swiped 2 bags yesterday, hit a home run the day before. Overall, it's a very down season for Adolis, but he still hit the ball extremely hard. Still a very interesting hitter from the heart of that lineup, and he's gotten super cheap for his upside days. Rowdy Tellez at just 2,700, hitting the 6th spot behind him, 2,500 on FanDuel, 15 home runs in 253 plate appearances, a 232 ISO, 15.2% barrels, and 46.8% hard hits. Strikes out at a fair clip, doesn't really draw walks against a pitcher that doesn't really allow home runs and keeps the ball to a very low trajectory. It's a great price to find Rowdy Tellez. And if he's there tomorrow, if he's there the day after, we'll definitely be taking our shares. But that's a scary option given what this pitcher is likely to take away from him. Still one of the more appealing bats in this lineup, given the cheap power on deck, though. And if we happen to chase Soriano and get into the bullpen, there's major upside for power to come through. Same thing is true from Jock Peterson at just 2,300, 2,600. But again, if we're taking the home run away from Jock this year, he's got 6 in 216 plate appearances, even that off his usual pace. But he's pulled himself together as far as some of the premium contact. He has been a little bit of a surge in output recently. Still got him at 162, 279, 308 overall. If we're taking the home run away from him, that gets really problematic. Corey Seager's excellent against anybody. Top priority option in this lineup. Excuse me. Wyatt Langford, major counting stat upside, 19 homers, 18 stolen bases, a solid season overall with more to give, 347 xWOBA under the surface, major premium contact option, 117 WRC plus. Wyatt Langford's also really interesting at 44.33. Seager's also cheap, 4,700 for Corey Seager is down there, 33 on FanDuel. Josh Smith, a capable player in the top spot, good table setter ahead of those two. Definitely interesting on FanDuel where you get him at literally any position you want. Just an outfielder on DraftKings, kind of unfair. Just kind of in the mix, just another outfielder on the DK slate. Way more interesting on FanDuel. Josh Young from down here, 31.25, underperforming his talent all season long, but a dozen home runs, just an 88 WRC plus. An okay hard hit rate without a lot of barrels involved, striking out too much, not drawing enough walk. But a guy who was a much better player in the recent past. Now that he's just cheap at third base as a filler option, he's perfectly capable. But again, we're limiting the home run expectation here with Soriano on the mound. Jonah Heim, mix and match quality catcher, and then Alejandro Osuna is cheap at the bottom of the lineup. A little bit of power upside from him as well, but kind of limited against this pitcher. DeGrom, Soriano, Rangers bats, Angels bats way down the bottom. This is stupid interesting. Might not work, but if I was playing on DraftKings today, I would have a pretty large share of Jose Soriano. 3 games to go. Put that down, pick this up. What is that? Nothing important over there. Jerome Brown, welcome aboard. I appreciate you, buddy. Jerome saying, love the way you break things down. Helps a lot. I'm going to subscribe. I appreciate you. OMG Lowell saying hi to him. OMG, nice, one of the nice people hanging out in the chat. Be on the rabbit hole. Appreciate you, buddy. Best fantasy breakdown on the tube. I hope so. We certainly go long enough. I am both really looking forward to and completely dreading the first overlong football show that comes up this season. We had a couple like 4-hour football shows when everything piles into Fridays over the last couple of years. Looking to keep those a little bit lighter this year. Hoping to break it up, as I say every season, positionally. Tackle like quarterbacks early in the week, and then that informs the other conversations. But you know me, I just get so caught up in like, oh, but since that's a cheap quarterback, let's look at his 2 wide receivers and like who goes with him. And we lose the thread very quickly, like we just have on this show. 415 implied total for the Pods, 444 implied total for the Mariners. I like the looks of the Mariners against Mr. Sears here. 65-69 for JP Sears. I do think he's a dart that you could throw from time to time across 150 lineups. If you're building 20, he could be in one or two of them, and that's perfectly fine. If you get him out to 5, you're probably over-owning him. Somewhere between 2 and 5 is probably the appropriate number if you want to gain a little leverage on a 20 max. He's very cheap at those prices. It is a opponent that you could envision success against, given that there are some strikeouts and some of their key hitters for the Mariners up toward the top of the lineup there strike out a lot. But there are very dangerous, very high-quality right-handed bats in this lineup. Sears gives up a 4.80% home run rate on the season. He's got a 4.94 ERA, a 4.78 xFIP, striking out fewer than 20% of hitters. 6% walk rate is okay, but not a great strikeout to walk overall. A lot of premium contact on deck from an extreme fly ball pitcher. The ballpark does help pitching a little bit here, but it's a problematic spot more often than not for Sears. You've got Cal Raleigh exactly doubling the magic number in the home run model. Let me pull up the actual file so I can point to things. Cal at 20. You've got Eugenio Suarez a couple spots later in the 15 range. Julio Rodriguez, obviously extremely, extremely dangerous from the right side in the middle there. Randy Rosarena at the top of the line. It's just a tough spot for Sears. You're just chasing strikeout there at a cheap price, and there are a lot of cheap options on the board. I would much rather have Jose Soriano for cheaper in the other game. Last time out, Sears against the Giants, 1 earned run, just 2 strikeouts and a walk. The earned run came on a home run, only allowed 4 hits over 6, though. It's a reasonable start outside of the lack of strikeouts. If we took him today, we'd be looking for something like what he did against Texas on the 23rd of July. 5 innings, just 1 earned run on 3 hits, struck out 7, walked none that day. Had a 6 strikeout game, but walked 3 the start after that against these Mariners. 1 home run allowed, just 2 earned runs on 5 hits, but only lasted 4 1/3. Not a pretty day overall. Not that that's predictive because it was against this team. It's just more reflective of the downside of JP Sears, even on a day where he found a few Ks. Start after that one, 5 earned runs, 10 hits to the Diamondbacks over 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, a walk, a home run allowed. Has allowed a home run in each of his last 6 starts. Just 1 2-home run day. That came against Cleveland of all teams, but a home run allowed in every other game there. Had a pair of 3 home run games, 3 3-home run games on the season. So there's visible power downside and a lot showing for the Mariners here. Bryce Miller's a tremendous pitcher. He's very, very cheap today. We're only probably getting 5 innings here, and he's up against a very low strikeout, 17.2% for this projected version of the Padres lineup. Even if we take out the spectacular 2.7% at which Luis Arias strikes out, you're still only at a 19% strikeout rate. So they are appreciably better than the average team as far as avoiding the strikeout. And if we're only giving Miller 5 innings, which is what I gave him here, think we're kind of limited. He also just wasn't pitching well earlier in the season, most likely because he's just been injured, but that still could easily be in play. We haven't seen it yet where he's come out and succeeded. 18.1% strikeouts, 5.87 ERA, a 4.92 xFIP. I drafted him this season and was very disappointed. Kind of a wasted draft pick early in our Dynasty League draft. Succeeded for me in a big, big way last year, though. He was tremendous. 24.3% strikeouts, gave you 180 and a third and 31 starts, 2.94 ERA, 3.85 xFIP. If that guy comes back for the day at these prices, you've got a great option on your hands. I just don't think we get there. Even at price, doesn't seem like a good option. That's why I honestly just left the projection as low as it was showing initially, because I didn't want to tangle with like, all right, he could be 1 strikeout better here, get him to 24 and change FanDuel points, and he looks a lot better for the money. Wanted to keep him low because there's no ceiling there unless he happens to go out and throw 6 and change innings. Padres bats lightly in play at worst. 415 implied total, I think, speaks to like with the we don't know of it, of what Bryce Miller's going to look like for the innings that he's in there. And the Pods are a good but also middling kind of a team, if that makes any sense at all. Limited for home runs, they've got Manny Machado at 21, but nobody else over 20. A couple guys at 17, where Fernando Tatis has been stuck for basically the entire second half. Gavin Sheets got to 17, but he's been in a bigger slowdown overall. Ramon Laureano hit most of his 19 for the Orioles, but has been on a major stretch since joining the Padres also. But they're like a mid-board type team while winning baseball games. Laureano, since joining the Padres, again, was off to a great start already for the season with the Orioles. Since joining the Pods, 4 home runs, a pair of triples, just 3 doubles, oddly. He's got more home runs than doubles, and he's got 2 triples to his 3 doubles. 325, 379, 563 slash line, a 165 WRC plus, 238 ISO, and a 402 WOBA. It's been absolutely fantastic. Great acquisition for this team. Ryan O'Hearn, last I checked, was not performing as well as a Padre, but is a good bat. Low strikeout, fairly high quality, mid-board power type guy. All right, he's pulled it together, actually. Since joining the Pods, he is now at, after struggling over his first few outings, pretty solid last like 10 days. He's at 255, 364, 455, a 130 WRC plus, up to 3 home runs now. 24.2% strikeout is a little bit high still for him, but he's got a 200 ISO against that, and he's drawing a 12.1% walk rate. That's over 66 plate appearances, but it's nice to see he's normalized back to Ryan O'Hearn caliber numbers outside of a few more strikeouts than one might expect. Solid, again, mid-board type line drive hitter with a little bit of home run upside. He's got 16 homers on the year, 183 ISO, about where you'd expect him. Manny has slipped down to a 188 ISO, but still tremendous power overall. Looks like he's taken a little bit of a dip probably over the last 2 weeks, 10 days. Where's he been recently? Again, we don't want to get lost in recent results. Yeah, last 54 plate appearances going back to August 11th for Manny. Just 1 home run, 245, 315, 367, a 91 WRC plus, and just a 122 ISO. But again, we do not worry about a recent stretch for a hitter who has been one of the top third basemen in baseball with the bat for the last 10 years. 12.6% barrel, 52.4% hard hit in a resurgent season. The recent scuffling has gotten the price knocked down by a couple $100 on both sites. If it does the same thing to the popularity, that's a really, really appealing bat to get to. Luis Arraez at 32.26 continues to be a ridiculous player to have in the 2 spot in this lineup. 101 WRC plus, just a 289 XWOA. There's a lot not to like. I also don't like that he's a first baseman on DraftKings only. You want him at second base, 2,600. He's inoffensive on FanDuel. He's in play as a correlated scoring guy if you're going to the Padres already. He's in no way a reason to go to the Padres. And on DraftKings, he's super skippable. I'd much rather have Ryan O'Hearn at first base for 36 than Luis Arraez at 32. Arraez does give you a little hit tool. He gets involved from time to time. He is a decent correlated scoring option, but he's just at 285, 319, 391 this year. That is not a high-end player. Bottom of the lineup, Jake Cronenworth, always in play as a mix and match guy. Second base is the ideal spot to find him. 9 home runs, just a 136 ISO on the season, but getting on at a 357 clip, creating runs with a 114 WRC plus. It's an interesting bat, 12.7% walks this season. And then Freddie Fermin, rounding out the projected version of the lineup. Just 2,300, just 2,400. He's a catcher with a good hit tool. He doesn't have a ton of power, doesn't find a ton of barrels or hard hit, but he's very low strikeouts, 16.3 this year with a medium walk rate at 5.6. Last year, 17.963. The year before, 21.355. And he has again, solid hit tool, so puts the ball in play quite a bit. 261, 308, 345 this year. Last year, /271, 319, 366 for the Royals in a part-time role. Year before that, 281, 321, 461. Hit 9 home runs in 235 plate appearances to add on in that stretch. So he's not an appealing bat. He's not like a priority or a go-to guy. But if you're just stacking up Padres and you want to fill that catcher spot with a capable guy for only 2,300, that is not a bad way to round out a Padres stack. And now you're talking, like, I would rather have Freddie Fermin in my lineup, I think, and fill catcher very, very cheap, and then just get a higher end first baseman or take Ryan O'Hearn, then take Luis Arraez. You go Tatis, Machado. I skipped over Xander Bogaerts in the middle of the lineup. He's just having a nice year. 330 on base, a 104 WRC plus. Hasn't been doing anything particularly well, but does everything okay. 16.5% strikeout against 9.2% walks is probably his strongest attribute, but a low-priced, high-quality shortstop. You know, Tatis, Manny, Bogey. What do you go? 1, 2. Sheets, Laureano, and Freddie. That's an interesting way to do it. I don't mind using shortstop or first base with O'Hearn or Bogey, and you can do it with their eyes if you're a bigger fan of his than I am. But if I'm going this route, I think I would use all three of the outfielders if this is the lineup they roll out. All three of the outfielders with Manny, and then the super cheap catcher. And then that allows me at 38.80, so 3,900 a man, 19.4 for the full 5-man. I could take 2 high-end pitchers, but if I take that and Jose Soriano on the mound, I can buy probably the 3 biggest players at first base, shortstop, and second base. That said, if you take Cronenworth instead of, let's say, Gavin Sheets and Phil second, you're at 38.80 again, 19.4 total. And now I've got first, short, and outfield open. And to me, like, you've got so many teams with good first, short, and outfield. It's a shame that the Mets are playing Chris Sanchez, because that was exactly the team that popped into my head, because you've got first, outfield, shortstop, 3 very high priced guys, superstars. You could do that with the Phillies. First outfield, shortstop right there. That's your path. First outfield, shortstop, 3 superstars paired with those 5 Padres, Jose Soriano, and probably the top pitcher on the board. That's an interesting way. Again, that's not like the go-to for the entire slate, but that's an interesting way, if you're bound and determined to build with the Padres, that they could pay off, get you to a very high quality secondary stack and good pitching. On the Mariners side, the better implied total, the team that's going up against the way worse pitcher, team that I'm very, very interested in. Could have, in a way, used them as the example as well, but J.P. Crawford a little bit diminished, maybe. Suffering in the second half of the season, down to 262, 354, 360, but still a 111 WRC plus. Still an interesting shortstop. Lefty, not necessarily doing him favors, but a low caliber lefty. I think J.P. Crawford, if he's down the bottom of the lineup, still very interesting as a wraparound. We do have this lineup now, and he is hitting 8th. We get Victor Robles back in the Mariners lineup as well. That's an interesting hitter. I guess he avoided suspension, or is it just still pending? You missed it just last week in the minors in his rehab stint. Got hit with a pitch and took his bat and threw it at the pitcher. But apparently you can do that these days. We'll reserve comment on how the law applies anymore. At the bottom of the board, though, 3,700, 2,400. That's not a bad play. Robles is interesting. Got on base at a 381 clip over 295 plate appearances last year. Stole 34 bases for this team. Really surged once he joined the Mariners last year. It's a player who, I talked about it a lot through that stretch last season, was once upon a time one of the top prospects in all of baseball. Had a great rookie year, kind of washed out, COVID, short stints, lack of opportunity, et cetera. Everything piled up on him, and he became a bust. But then the talent really came through last year. Was injured for most of this season, but now back in the lineup and pretty cheap as a way to attack JP Sears from the bottom, wrap him back around with all his on-base and speed skills ahead of Rosarena, Cal Raleigh, Julio, Suarez, etc. It's an upside play. From the top of the lineup down, though, Mariners are spectacular. 49-31. Randy Arozarena is not expensive enough for a guy with 24 home runs, 24 stolen bases, a 351 xWOBA, 126 WRC plus. I don't really understand why he's sub 5,000 on DraftKings, just 31 on FanDuel. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Cal Raleigh is a monster. 49 home runs, single season catcher record. Again, every time he puts on his uniform, he's having the best catcher season of all time. Take advantage. He's doubling the magic number for home run upside against JP Sears. Top option on the board. Didn't take him for the home run pick, but I was tempted to. Julio Rodriguez at 53 at 34 has 25 home runs, 23 stolen bases, and a monster second half in progress. Eugenio Suarez, 40 home runs on the season for him, a 306 ISO, has overcome a lot of the concerns in recent games over his trade to the Mariners. He was not great for them a couple seasons ago and then surged in a big, big way back to himself, but has found it somewhat, at least, with his former team and his current team. Naylor, 46, 31, 16 homers, 22 stolen bases, one of the major league leaders in the second half for stolen bases. Fairly priced for a very high-quality hitter, 282, 347, 449 on the year, a 121 WRC+. plus. Mitch Garver's got some power from the right side, 2,800, 8.5% barrel, 46.8% hard hit. A lot of strikeouts, but a fair amount of walks, 8 home runs and 243 plate appearances. We've seen him hit for better home run pace in the past. Jorge Polanco's cheap at second base. He's got 19 homers on the year. The quality comes and goes with Polanco, but you get a little bit of righty thunder from him as well. And then those two appealing on-base options from the bottom. It's a 9-man deep Mariners team that should be in play in a big, big way against Sears. Mariners bats, Padres bats, really neither pitcher, but JP Sears would be the discount bin dart to throw there. I don't think you get enough upside out of Miller today. And then the story team of the slate, the Detroit Tigers, in this bandbox in Sacramento, going up against JT Ginn, drawing a 5.23 implied total. JT's allowed a 5+% home run rate on 11.2% barrels, 47.9% hard hits, 89 miles an hour of exit velo. We talked about him the last time out because he was very, very cheap, similarly cheap to how he is today, but it was a road game. He wasn't pitching in this problematic ballpark. We talked about him that day because he comes in with an 11.1% swinging strike, a 29.3% CSW, and a 25.5% strikeout rate against just 7.7% walks over his 10 starts, his 60 innings. He does keep the ball down to a 7.3 degree average launch, but obviously that has not helped him avoid the home run mistakes. So I don't think we're worrying about that against all the power showing for the Detroit Tigers. The strikeout would be the interesting thing with Ginn. At 55 on DraftKings, at 64 on FanDuel, you're probably not going to a good option if you choose to play him. Right, we're just talking about one of the highest upside spots on the board with the opposing offense. He's very, very cheap, but I'd much rather have Jose Soriano, who can at least believably keep the home run off the board a little bit more. Kid can find some strikeouts here. There are appreciably heavy strikeout rates through the Tigers lineup, but it's just looking like so much more of a Tigers offense day. And we didn't really get there with Ginn the last time out in that better looking spot. He went 4 2/3 in that game. Struck out 5, walked 2 earned runs on 7 hits. That was against the Twins again on the road. For the money, maybe it's squeaked through on value. Didn't get the win bonus. Just 2 innings in the start before that against the Rays. Faced only 14 hitters. Gave up 5 earned runs, 6 runs total on 6 hits, including a home run. Struck out 3 and walked 1. Had a 9 strikeout day over just 5 innings against the Orioles, but gave up 3 earned runs on 3 hits, including 2 home runs. Problematic. The guy on the other side you might have heard of, he's going to win the AL Cy Young this year. 10-7, 10-8 for Tarek Skubal, 2.32 ERA, a 2.49 xFIP, 33 1/3 strikeout, or 33.1% strikeouts, against just 4.1% walks. He is absolutely fantastic. 0.87 whip, 17% swinging strikes, throwing him into a lineup with a 21.7% strikeout rate, but that's bolstered a bit by the 7.6% out of Jacob Wilson, which is a very real number. But if you just look at the guys surrounding, Kobe Thomas I'll even leave out just to make it fair. I'll leave Darrell Arnaiz in his 11 in and Luis Urias at his 13. That pushes us already to, wait, how does that average lower? Oh, because I'm taking the 43 out. That was actually only 20%. The point I was trying to make is some of their better power bats through the middle there. That's 23.7 on Brett Harris, JJ Bleday, Nick Kurtz, Brent Rooker, and Shea Langoliers. There are strikeouts there. That's also including Langoliers with his season-long cut strikeout rate from 27.2 last year, 29.2 the year before, down to just 19.8 this year. If anybody's going to exploit the formerly heavy strikeout rate of Shea Langoliers, I think it's Mr. Scooble on the other side. Fire away with shares, even in this ballpark. They are showing a little power against. He's given up an 8.2% barrel, just 2.15% home runs, though, because look at the weak and medium contact he induces. 33% hard hits, 86.2 miles an hour of exit velo. It is ridiculously difficult, even for a team like this in a ballpark like this, to hit home runs against Tarek School. Everybody in this lineup, sub 10%, even Kurtz. Kurtz also gets some lefty-lefty here. What's he done lefty-lefty? Not that it matters against Scooble, but in the overall, what's he done? I think he's good, right? Ooh, not. Okay. We're up to 104 lefty-lefty plate appearances now for Kurtz, and that's his kryptonite. 187, 260, 363. Does have 3 of his 25 home runs in the split, or excuse me, 4 of his 26 home runs. But in his 275 plate appearances against righties, he's slashing 352, 449, 734, 1.183 OPS if you're not doing the math, a 382 ISO, and he's 118 points better than average by WRC+. Essentially, he's Aaron Judge against righties and not so much against lefties. And again, that matters less against a lefty of this quality. But not a good day to be playing Nick Kurtz, even if you're looking for contrarian A's shares against Scooble here. I'd probably, if you're going to the A's, lean more toward the righties, in which case we're getting Shea Langoliers, we're getting Brent Rooker, of course, and their prodigious power, 28 homers, 26 homers, 277 and a 224 ISO, respectively, both guys at a 126 WRC+, monster premium contact numbers. But again, best pitcher in baseball. Jacob Wilson would be in play in that case, 3,600, 2,600. You would want his hit tool. If I'm the A's, I'm putting Wilson up there, probably Rooker, then Langoliers, and I'm burying Kurtz maybe down in the 5-6 spot, and maybe you bring like Darryl Arnaiz and his low strikeout approach up a spot. You could easily go Kurtz cleanup, but I would want to move Wilson's hit tool up in front of the more capable righty power bats there. I would think they do that. Colby Thomas at 20 and Wilson 315, 356, 449 over 408 plate appearances. Creating runs 22% better than average. Strikes out just 7.6 and walks 5.1. So very low strikeout, lightly struck slap hitter type balls in play, but definitely some upside there as a correlated score. He's also hit 11 home runs. He's not incapable of driving the ball. Arnaiz just 11.6% strikeout and 10.5% walk over 95 plate appearances. He's hit 2 home runs, mix and match quality there. Brett Harris, very cheap, 24-21, but not a lot of quality in his limited opportunities so far. Bleday not having a good season. He's hit 10 home runs, just a 301 ISO, or 301 on base where he used to be a decent contributor. 33-25, inoffensively priced, but another lefty-lefty matchup. And then Luis Urias can barrel the ball from time to time. 8 home runs in 330 chances, but limited output from him as well this season. Just a problematic A's day. The upside for the Tigers is very real, though. Colt Keith is a good way to get things started at 3,700, 2,800 with multi-position on FanDuel. He's at 11 homers, 164 ISO, creating runs 15% better than average. Excellent underlying 358 xWOBA, making great contact up at the plate, drawing his walks, not really striking out all that much, although that's up a little bit year over year. He's really, really delivering on his talent a lot more than he initially was. 4,600, 3,000 for Gleyber Torres, 14.6% strikeout, 13.2% walk rate. He's at 13 home runs, 262, 363, 400 slash line, a 117 WRC plus, and a 385 xWOB under the surface for Gleyber. It's better than he's been, and he's been pretty good. And then you get the stretch of power, 12.5 for Kerry Carpenter, 12.12 for Riley Green, and 11.24 in the home run model for Torque. Everybody's fairly priced. Keep in mind, again, they're hitting in a just launching pad of a ballpark today. 31 home runs on the board for Green, their best overall hitter from that pocket. 28 home runs on the board for Torkelson at 243, 336, 482 with a 124 WRC plus. And then today's home run pick of the day, Mr. Kerry Carpenter. 22 home runs, a 261 ISO. The 22 homers come in just 368 plate appearances, while his pals have had 533 and 527 to get to their higher totals. Best pace is Kerry Carpenter. 13% barrels, 44.2% hard hits, a ton of thunder from the left side. Both him and Riley Green very much in play here. Torkelson, not a bad option either. And don't sleep on Wenceel Perez. Switch hitter, 4,300, 2,900. He's hit 11 home runs in just 261 chances, a 216 ISO. He's really delivering this season. Sub 20% strikeout as well. That's an appealing option. Dylan Dingler makes great contact as a cheap catcher, 3,700 for a catcher who has a 9.1% barrel, a 45.1% hard hit, 11 home runs, a 271, 317, 427 slash line, 351 xWOBA that speaks to the underlying upside, a 105 WRC plus. That's a tremendous catcher option in this ballpark against this pitcher. McKinstry, better than a mix and match quality guy this year with 11 homers, 19 steals, tons of counting stats across 431 chances, getting on at a 342 clip, 120 WRC plus. He's made himself into a really appealing wraparound guy to bring back up top over top of those guys. The one thing about that is you don't have their three biggest bats in the top two spots. You have to wait till 3, 4, 5. So wraparound slightly less effective depending on what you're doing with those two. And then Avi Baez in the mix for some shares. 11 home runs on the season. His best season in recent memory, but overall 94 WRC plus, not great. Skubal, Tigers bats, Skubal, whichever way you want to put it. Probably A's bats over JT Ginn, but neither of those looks all that appealing. Swoosh Bang saying the Tigers A's has all my money. Hopefully a big game. Told a God saying, hell yeah, locking Soriano in my single entry. Oh man, I've sold Soriano way too hard. I think on DraftKings, it's absolutely the right play. That cheap, just for the innings alone, I think it's absolutely the right move. Might not work. Know that it might not work. I know you know what you're doing, but yikes. I would have them if it was my lineup. Put it that way. Rounding out the show after 2 hours and 15 minutes for a 10-gamer. Reds at just a 3.77 total going up against a fairly high-end young pitcher for the Dodgers, Emmett Sheehan. 7 starts, 25.7% strikeouts, a 4.17 ERA against a 3.96 xFIP are adequate numbers for just getting things rolling. Has given up a little bit of premium contact. That's what I'd be worried about here for the Reds. 9.8% barrel, just under 40% hard hits, 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo. 2 of those 3 things are above our threshold, and they're coming on a 22.1 degree average launch, which is part of the barrel rate. Probably a little lucky to be at just 2.92% home runs in the small sample. Probably a little bit of additional power in a longer term. And you can see that a little bit on the red side. Ellie at a 10.66. Austin Hayes coming through at 8.48 in the home run model. Handful of these guys are showing some power upside, but overall it is a limited power team. Not even Ellie has gotten to 20 home runs yet. One other guy in this lineup above 15, that's Spencer Steer with 16 in an otherwise pretty terrible season. Not a really threatening lineup for Sheehan here. Last time out, Sheehan went 6. That was against the Rockies at Coors. He struck out 7, walked 2, gave up 2 home runs, 4 earned runs, but again, Coors Field game. At the Angels, struck out 6, but another home run allowed, had a 5-run day on 5 hits over 5. 2 unearned runs over 5 against the Cards, 5 strikeouts, gave up a homer in that one as well, but both runs were unearned. Prior to that was just kind of getting stretched out. Still not really reliable for depth, which would be the one problem. I think 6 innings at Coors Field is a good sign that we have 6 in play today if all goes to plan against the Reds. You're probably not getting more than that. 75-74, though, against a team that has some strikeout, at least through the middle. Some of their better hitters strike out pretty aggressively, and then the guys on the ends don't strike out quite as much. Reasonable upside for a path to 6-7 strikeouts for Sheehan, a strikeout an inning kind of a performance. I think he's in play at those prices with a little tiny sliver of ceiling on top. Hunter Green on the other side, 32.2% strikeouts against just 4.9% walks. That's pretty appealing. In his 2 starts since returning to action, he was off from June 3rd to August 13th, but came out 6 innings in the first one against the Phils, struck out 6, shut them out over those 6 innings, 3 hits allowed, and then followed that up at the Angels last week. 3 earned runs allowed over 6 1/3, but he struck out 12. Safe to say, full expectation for Hunter Green 9,000 affordably priced against this version of the Dodgers. 10-4 on FanDuel gets a little bumpy. He gives up a couple runs and you're running into some trouble there unless he's actually striking out a dozen hitters. But this is a spectacular strikeout to walk, monster swinging strike rate, excellent CSW, 2.63 ERA, a 3.16 xFIP, the best stuff plus rating on the entire slate. And that, I remind you, is a slate that has Tarek Skubal and Chris Sanchez and Jake DeGrom and so on and so forth on it. Kid is really, really good. Comes with a little bit of downside around power. 9.1% barrel on a 22.6 degree average launch, over the threshold for hard hits, right at the threshold for exit velo. 3.53% home runs, I think, is pretty believable. Could be over 4 if all his games came in their bandbox home park, but monster upside on any given slate. The Dodgers are problematic for anybody, but this version of the Dodgers strikes out a little bit more than other iterations. They've got excellent bats undeniably through the middle, but if he's missing bats like he can, it's an upside day for him, and it's a downside day to be on Dodgers. Vegas kind of fence sitting at a 4.32 implied total, though. Shohei Ohtani at 65.47 is Shohei Ohtani. Tons and tons of upside for him with 45 home runs and 17 stolen bases. Easily the big threat in this lineup. But even with his premium contact that he allows, everybody else, even Teoscar, below the magic number in home run upside. So it's not really showing as much as it otherwise might. Will Smith obviously comes with tremendous upside, but his power comes more in the form of in the ballpark. He's hit 15 home runs and 409 plate appearances, has a 194 ISO, but it's more about extra base hits. Teoscar has great power upside, 21 home runs at 213 ISO, but again, he's clipped down to 9.25. Andy Pajas at 7.85. And they get Freddie, who has been, power has been slipping a little bit over the last couple of years. 18 home runs and 502 chances is fine. 199 ISO is good, but it's a little bit more limited than we've come to expect over time from Freeman. Mookie having a problematic year overall. Just 13 home runs, a 123 ISO. The power's been entirely out for him. So we're taking one of the bigger downsides, not taking it away, but it's a less threatening, no Max Muncy in there has an impact. It's a less threatening, maybe, overall Dodgers lineup with a little bit more strikeout potential. Just to round them out, since I went through most of the lineup there, Alex Freeland at a fair price in the heart of the lineup. Hasn't really shown much quality at the major league level outside of a very solid 342 on base. Has put up a 109 WRC plus, just 226, 342, 387. Needs to find the power stroke. 301 xWOBA. Has barreled a few balls. That's where the home runs came from. Again, Pajas very good at 39, 31, 21 homers, 13 stolen bases. Up and down as far as the slash line goes overall, but an excellent 512 plate appearances if you just look at the whole. Conforto, a very poor 400 plate appearances if you look at the whole. You'll really only have to focus on the premium contact numbers and maybe the walk rate, but it's been a ugly ride with Conforto. That said, I think if you're choosing to target Hunter Green and the power downside, you're probably including Michael Conforto at a very cheap price. Miguel Rojas, mix and match quality infielder at the bottom of the lineup. To round things out and close out the show, the Reds cheap up at the top, 3,900, 3,100 for TJ Friedl, who gets on base at an effective 363 clip, creates runs at a 107 pace by WRC plus, 10 home runs, 11 stolen bases. He's a spot filler. He's a mix and match quality guy. Gives you a little bit more than the average outfielder via the on base, the low strikeout, heavy walk rate. Table setter ahead of Noelvi Marte, Ellie De La Cruz, some of the other guys in this lineup. He's best utilized as a table setter, low strikeout type. Noelvi Marte's come through with some power. 10 home runs, a 218 ISO over 234 plate appearances. Comes on 9.6% barrel, only 36.7% hard hit. Curious to see where that goes. It's been low strikeout, low walk so far, so you're getting a lot of that contact. Previously, 31% strikeout, 3.7% walk. That was in 242 plate appearances that don't look nearly the quality of what we've gotten this season. So there's a lot of growth there that's come after the suspension. He's looking like a pretty good player, pretty realistic. 131 WRC plus, 44-32, one of their more expensive bats, but not expensive for the full slate. Ellie justifiably high priced, 19 homers, 31 steals, 275, 347, 458. A good, maybe short of expectation, short of like super duper star caliber from Ellie, but a very, very good season and an excellent fantasy season. I don't think I have to sell him too hard. 41, 3,000 for Austin Hayes is okay. 10 home runs, over 325 plate appearances, a 180 ISO. Another guy who finds more of his power in the ballpark this year than out of it, but a decent bat for an inoffensive price from the heart of the lineup from the right side. Gavin Lux at 29-27 gives you a lot of the same things TJ Friedl does. I like those two lefties when they're more separated in the lineup like this. You can begin and end a stack with those guys. 354 on base out of Lux, a 105 WRC plus, but not a lot of power output, not a lot of individual production. Getting him ahead of Spencer Steer is probably the correct way to do that. You include both of them so you get the correlation with the power bat that follows from the on-base guy. 16 home runs on the board from Steer. The season overall has been bad, though, at 236, 302, 397, just a 90 WRC plus. Ke'Bryan Hayes never capitalizes on his good hard hit rates, his low strikeout, low walk. Puts a lot of balls in play with a 45.7% hard hit, but where do they go? 242, 291, 317, 4 home runs, 0.075 ISO. None of that aligns with the hard hit rates he's had over the last few years. This is who he is. It's just always the case. Jose Trevino at 25-24, mix and match quality catcher, the absolute best, not much of a hitter, probably not even as good as the pretty bad slash line that he's put up overall for the season. And Matty McClain at 38-28, 11 home runs, 16 stolen bases. Not bad in terms of counting stats, given the runs and the handful of ribbies. Missed all of last year, was terrific 2 years ago. 16 homers, 14 steals, 293, 57, 506, a 216 ISO over just 403 plate appearances. Not sure where that guy went, but the Reds could sure use him back, and so could we for DFS, because if I'm going Reds, I'm probably putting him in my lineup. Between the two things, though, I think I lean Sheehan a little bit at the fair pricing. This goes Hunter Green, Dodgers bats, Emmett Sheehan, Reds bats. I think. You could quibble with the order Reds bats over Sheehan, Sheehan over the Reds bats. A little back and forth there. But I lean toward the pitcher a little bit. And that's it, fellas. Ladies, gentlemen. Clint Wood saying, speaking as a Rangers fan, let's go Soriano. We are all going to ride that play either to great success or to the bottom of the board. Should be fun. Pull up the pitching board one last time. We'll see where he lives on this board. Again, right there, right? Dead center, 28 points on FanDuel, 13 and change on DraftKings. Obvious basement to go lower than that. A little bit ceiling to go higher than that if he finds some strikeout form. But what he does really well is just keeps the ball down. Negative 3 point, whatever it was, average launch angle, 1 point something home run rate. If we're taking those homers away from Texas, fingers crossed, it's a decent play. And 57 on DraftKings is just stupid cheap. He's cheaper than all the bad pitchers. He's half the price of all the good pitchers. As I said earlier, I think there's upside in considering some options with him and Cam Schlittler, him and Max Scherzer. Obviously, options with Scherzer and Schlittler, and Schlittler and Cameron and Scherzer. I think it would pay to leave at least the top two, who are crazy, both excellent, the two most likely guys to put up monster scores, justifiably extremely highly owned on DraftKings and on FanDuel. But for lineup building purposes, run a bunch with those guys in, collect that pool, and then take them out and run a pool that starts here and just includes those guys so that you get some of those combinations. Because default optimizer-wise, they're just going to have a ton of these guys paired in with these guys. And you want that. That is the best approach. But you also want a sampling of some of these guys paired together. And I do think you want a sampling of some of the cheap mid pairings. Emmett Sheehan would be in that conversation somewhat as one of the mid guys. Cam Schlittler's got tons of upside against Washington with his strikeout stuff, just needs to wrangle the home run ball a little bit. I don't love Senga there from the middle. I think I'd rather have Schlittler. I'd rather have Soriano. I'd rather have Sheehan. Erod is a total wild card. Another very cheap option at 77 on FanDuel, 62 on DraftKings. Good enough on the right day to beat that Brewers team. Bad enough on the wrong day to get destroyed by that Brewers team. After him, I don't love Jin. I think the projection is fair, but I think the ballpark, the opponent, and everything working against him is just going to take that play away more often than not. I think McGreevy is probably the better option from down here and the cheapest option you can get to on FanDuel. I don't like that one. I don't like that one. Same thing going down here. Same thing on DK for all those guys. Out of that mix, once we're below McGreevy there, it's probably Sears as the most playable guy. These two are super obvious at the top. Love Chrissy Sanchez, even in a tough matchup against the Mets, more than good enough to put up a great score. Joe Ryan, difficult matchup against the low strikeout Blue Jays. Could come through with a little bit of power and somebody's on base. That gets ugly in a hurry at those prices, but very capable. Woodruff, love the option, but a good Diamondbacks team on the other side, and another one where a couple of runs against and those prices go sideways awfully fast. But Woodruff is terrific. Max, 8,300, very, very cheap on DK. 96 right in the mix on FanDuel. Seeing a little bit of visible downside in the Twins. He's overperformed this season on what he's actually pitching like, but there's no real reason to think that he couldn't do it again tonight against that Twins team. So would definitely play Max, would definitely play some Twins against. We just talked through Hunter Green and his monumental upside against the Dodgers. Love Cameron at Price against that White Sox team, even with their success previously this season and a dangerous Lou Bob against lefties. I'm leaning more toward Cameron in that one. Told to God saying Erod Soriano sounds fire. Sounds like you're playing with fire. Yes. That is an incredibly thin needle and an incredibly large camel to get through. At 57.62, you can buy whatever hitters you want. That's obviously a path to ridiculous combinations of bats. You don't even need, at those low prices, the top end to necessarily fail, considering both guys are essentially half the price of everybody up top. You just need them both to kind of get through. I know you know, Tall to God, that you're absolutely playing in a very high danger spot there, and you're not necessarily likely to get through. You still got to drill the bats on the other side of that on a day with a lot of bats available. But I like where your head's at. It's definitely a unique path that we're kicking over on this show. I would do it. If I were playing one lineup on DraftKings, would I have that combination? Probably. And then I would buy another two lineups. But across 150, a little pocket of that combo, I absolutely love it. I would definitely do it. Probably not going to work. Don't go running and telling everybody that I'm telling you to go play those two guys, because I'm not. But they're there. Love the upside on this slate. There's so much pitching available. You don't need to do a thing like that. You don't even need to do a thing like, this. You could just live up in this territory and be perfectly fine. There's a lot of good pitching. I think more honestly, if you did do that Erod Soriano idea, you actually need the middle to fail more than you need the top end to fail. Anyway, gang, fun show, fun slate. Really like this one. It's just all over the place. Lot to talk through. Long show today. Appreciate everybody who stuck with, everybody who's catching up, everybody who bailed out already. Appreciate you just a little bit more if you've already hit the like button. If you haven't, do it and gain my appreciation. Damn it, here at the end of the show. Subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. If you get a chance beyond that, check out rotoscouts.com. There are links in the description below. There's a link to our totally free Discord. Come join the community if nothing else. Hang out, talk shop, chat. Football channel's going live. Basketball channel's been rolling. Those guys are covering WNBA in there every single day. People are providing free projections just out of the generous nature of their spirits. Has nothing to do with me, but they're doing it. Same thing for esports. There's an esports channel that I've even clicked on like 3 times. It's been there for like 2 years now. A lot going on in the Discord that's not even necessarily on the website. Check it out, rotoscouts.com. Everything's under $1 a day. Weeklies are $5 through the end of August with promo code 5me. Good luck out there tonight, gang. Let me go get the website updated. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do at rotoscouts on Twitter or in the Discord. I might screenshot them and put them out on Twitter myself if I see them, but love seeing you guys succeed just for me, for my own purposes, regardless of promotion. Makes me feel good when you guys do well. Makes me feel better when I do well. Ugh, that's too early. Planning our fantasy draft for next Monday. These guys want to start at 6:30. Bunch of old timers in my league now. Everybody wants to be in bed by 10. Drives me nuts. Anyway, gang, go get them tonight. We will be back for a large Tuesday slate, I imagine, tomorrow. Haven't looked at it yet. I'll see you.